Eventful day, Mike?
Eventful?
Yeah.
Not as eventful as the weekend.
Oh, I mean, your kids got locked down, but your weekend was worse than that.
Yeah. We probably needed to be locked down.
Did you tear it up?
Yeah, I don't think Atlanta will ever be the same.
Yeah. That's good.
That's what they say, right?
Yeah.
I went to see Lainey Wilson on Friday night. We barely saw her. Billy Bob's in Fort Worth. It was so packed. I mean, I think the place holds 6,000 people, and there were 6,000 people there. Like, I've never seen it busier. Like, we've seen not a ton of big acts there, but a handful of big acts there. But
big what?
Was big acts.
Oh, I was Lainey Wilson. I didn't know.
Okay. Yeah.
Mike check.
Yeah.
What was her big song? Watermelon something?
Oh,
here we go.
A Heart Like a Truck. Hold My Halo is a big one, a banger, and then the Watermelon Moonshine is like the banger right now. Mm-hmm. I was blown away. Another great example of how these companies that exist outside motorsports, they had promo people at like every spot in the stockyards giving out like old smoky moonshine. They were there with a watermelon moonshine promo.
Genius.
And like just smart stuff. I love that when people are opportunists, right? Like, all right, all these people are coming down here to go see Lainey Wilson. Like, let's make sure we have a presence at all these hotspot restaurants and bars. It was really, really, really well done. The show was, like I said, completely slam packed. And then about, 3 songs in, the power goes out. So the PA is gone. So they got Lainey out on stage. This is a classic example that everybody can learn from in racing. So things have gone bad. So in their world, this is like an oil down, right? This is like a starting line to finish line oil down. And they literally have Lainey out there with an acoustic guitar, and they have somebody from Billy Bob's holding a megaphone in front of her. Or with like the CB mic, right? Oh. And she is singing into the CB mic, and they're like playing it to the crowd. And that didn't last that long.
She actually had to do something like that here in Charlotte. She opened for...
it's a gimmick.
Oh, yeah. I can't even think of the dude's name. Luke Combs.
Watch him do it. Yep.
She opened for Luke Combs, and there was a storm, and it knocked all her stuff out, and she had to do the same thing, go acoustic.
Oh yeah, and people talk about it on the show, just like
wow, what a performer!
Yeah.
Oh
my God,
just artistry.
I got bombed at a golf tournament and got second or third.
Don't, JT, you're gonna get us in trouble with Wes's wife again. We're not allowed to possibly blow up any secrets that may be happening in the showbiz.
Oh.
Wes knows what I'm talking about.
Travis Kelce is like dating Taylor Swift.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
I'm so pumped about it. I can't wait.
Did you see the segment on McAfee about it?
I can't wait to hear the song that she writes when he jumps her. Oh, 87.
Oh, 87. That's probably what it'll be. Old.
She already has 89 out, so it's going to be 87 next.
I thought that was your song, JT, that you wrote to Travis Kelce.
I keep getting tagged in something about the media being full for a World Series or for the shootout. People are so funny. I don't know what this is about.
Would surprise me.
Yep.
It's not full. We haven't even asked anybody. All right, send it.
All right.
Listen, I've never had any problem expressing my opinions, but what we're doing here is bigger than that. These are conversations that need to be had in an unfiltered way. Drag racing's all I've ever done. It's all I care to do. I respect the history, I appreciate how far we've come, but I want more for this sport, and I'll fight for it. It's uncut, it's unfiltered, this is the show of shows. The biggest names in drag racing. No holds barred. This is the great American motorsport, drag racing. Prove me wrong, I'll wait. Hey gang, Wes Buck here, Drag Illustrated Magazine, checking in. It is Wednesday, September 13th, 2023. Hope you're doing well out there. We got a barn burner of a show lined up for you today. We're going to cover a lot of ground. We got a lot of work to do in a relatively short amount of time. We got some hot takes and hot topics to start the show. Run of the week on deck, racer of the week on deck. We're going to hear from Scott Palmer. Very excited to check in with Scott. It's been a minute, and it's been well prior to the big terrifying accident he was able to walk away from a few weeks ago. So I'm anxious to hear from Scott Palmer. We're also going to get some insight from Kevin Kinsley, big name down here in the Texas drag racing scene, who is making waves behind the wheel of the War Wagon Nitro Pro Mod, a 63 Corvette that clicked off a bottom 360 pass a couple weeks ago, and really maybe, in my opinion, kind of open people's eyes to what these nitro-powered door slammers can actually do. Really cool to see it in a competitive environment. We're also going to hear from the one, the only, undefeated in 2023, Ida Zetterstrom, European Top Fuel powerhouse champion of the series, fresh off back-to-back wins in the series. So excited to hear from her. But most important thing of all of you. So grateful, so proud, so honored to meet you all here around Drag Racing's Water Cool every Wednesday to talk shop, tell stories, and everything in between. But remember, I can't do it without you. So please click like, click share, click subscribe. Help us spread the gospel of drag racing. Can't do the show without a couple other folks as well. My partners in crime, Mike Carpenter, JT Hudson, the pride of North Carolina and La Plata, Missouri, respectively. I was writing down an intro for Mike. Let's give it up for him. Perhaps the most accomplished yellow Geo Metro driver of all time. I don't know that there's ever been anybody drive a yellow Geo Metro and accomplish as much in life as Mike Carpenter. I was throwing this around earlier today. You know his dad, Charles Carpenter, the godfather of Pro Mod. And I was wondering if we could make the godson of Pro Mod work.
Mm-hmm.
He's the godson of Pro Mod. Let's give it up for Mike Carpenter.
I don't
know, buddy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that that's gonna.
I guarantee you, I can find a picture.
Oh, I've got a photo.
We got some good ones of the Geo in action, breaking the pit speed limit with the back hatch open. Dudes hanging out.
Godson of Pro Mod could stick. You're like Pro Mod's adopted son or something like that. Like, we care about you.
Yep.
We're getting our arms wrapped around you. If anything happens, we're going to take care of you later in life. You're the godson of Pro Mod.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah. And JT, the glue guy here at Drag Illustrated, everybody's favorite party animal. What else? The pride of La Plata, Missouri, reigning, defending, state champion soybean festival party animal. I don't know what else. Former deputy sheriff. Let me think of what else. Yeah, our own JT Hudson. What's up, guys?
Everything, you just got to.
He's queuing up a photo right now. I can tell this is.
Oh yeah,
never.
You can see his eyes
never
moving.
A good feeling.
You need to start wearing sunglasses so nobody can tell what you're doing. Like that, I'm tempted to wear my It actually is a lot better experience for the viewer, in my opinion, because they can't tell where you're looking. You know what I mean? Like, and your eyes don't get all weird.
Yeah, that works. We need those, especially after the typical weekend hanging out with JT.
All right, sunglasses on for the rest of the
kind
show.
of a must.
Man, I don't have any right here. You guys
don't have those big goofy Patrick Mahomes ones?
No, man, those are sweet though.
Those are sweet. Yeah, he's a closet Chiefs fan. He just won't admit it. I mean, he's got jerseys.
I don't know, man. We're both 0-1 right now, starting out the year. Not great.
Yeah, we're fine.
How about them Cowboys? Right?
No, don't even.
Now
you're gonna be a Cowboys fan.
I've already switched to I've already the Chiefs lose the season opener. I'm hitching a ride with Jerry for the rest of the year. Yeah, me and Jerry Jones. Actually, truth is, we're close.
I feel sorry for New York. Like the Giants laid a complete egg, and then the Jets. Aaron Rodgers plays 4 snaps?
That was a terrible,
whatever.
Terrible start to the season,
bro.
I could tell, man. He came up. I was like, he's hurt. And then he just sits there for a little bit and the look on his face, and he sits down like, oh man, this is not good.
Yeah.
Whether you like him or not, man, that's like brutal.
He's a baller.
To start the season with all the hype, and I mean, he's
running out with the American flag. Like,
I can tell you,
moment,
for a fact, he's 39. I'm 40. If I snap my Achilles tendon, my career's over for a fact. And all I do is work on a computer.
I was gonna say, yeah, I know.
I'm done.
Mike doesn't go outside.
Mike retired from DI due to a ruptured Achilles tendon.
Outside his window, he's like, "Oh, somebody's mowing my yard."
Man,
Better Venmo him.
I don't know how that whole fan base comes back from that. Like, I don't know. I'm glad they won, but I don't know that there's no. I don't know. I don't think there's any real way to spin this positive. It's a bad deal for. Not that we're here to talk about the Jets, but
no,
Louise.
We did it, man. There's a lot to talk about in racing. We probably better get started. Even kind of like it, all the big leagues, I guess you could say, were off this past weekend, but certainly no lack of action.
No lack of action, man. And honestly, this new, I'm excited about this. Our first segment of the show, organized segment of the show, hot takes and hot topics presented by Redline Synthetic Oils. Let's get started here. Right off the top, in my opinion, this is exciting news for drag racing.
I'm going to go ahead and let somebody else take my spot in this.
Okay, who do we got?
Huh?
We got somebody.
Yeah.
Who do we got? Oh, we got Elon Werner. What's going on, buddy? Welcome to the show.
Well, hot takes. I'm here for the hot takes.
Okay, so here we go. Hot takes. We're going to start, ladies and gentlemen, founder of Drag Race Bracket Bonanza, Warner Communications.
He's already got merch.
Favorite
He's already got
PR
merch.
guy.
He's already got the merch. Yeah, so.
Jeez Louise. The one, the only Elon Werner. What's up, buddy? Thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me on.
Of course, man. We're gonna blow through. We've got segments now. The show's growing up, right?
I know you're getting all grown up. You're not just three guys just talking for 9 hours. Now you're like segmented. And you monetize it. It's been like a real show. I love it.
Yeah, we're doing our best. I'm trying to share it right now on my own Facebook page. That's how connected I am to social here. But anyways, to start this whole deal, how about the news that the NHRA will welcome back a more organized 6-race Mountain Motor Pro Stock shootout for 2024, presented by Johnson's Horse-Powered Garage, a brand that's making big waves in the drag racing space right now. Personally, I think this is much needed, even though I think we're going to see traditional 500 cubic inch pro stock racing at more races next year. Yep. This is a great compliment, and I think it says more about this particular group of racers' desire to race quarter mile.
Right.
Because that's the real big differentiator.
That is the huge difference, is seeing those cars go the full quarter mile and just run them out the back door. I mean, I think what I love is the diversity in the door slammer class that the NHRA is now creating, from FlexJet Factory Stock Showdown to Factory X to Pro Stock to Mountain Motor. I mean, it's so that those guys, it's so subtle, the differences in those cars, but there's huge segments of people that that's what they dig. And it's like American League versus National League. There's guys that like designated hitters and guys that think that that's crap. So when you see people like, oh, I don't know, Mountain Motor, blah, blah, and I was like, hey, there's a huge segment of people that love those guys and love to see that. And then there's the guys who maybe, I don't know, if you want to say finesse or whatever, like traditional pro stock. And I think the Factory X is going to really kind of, again, you saw the excitement around we had, 4 Factory X cars at the U.S. Nationals, and people were losing their minds. If Caps wouldn't have run a Snake funny car, everybody would be coming out of the U.S. Nationals talking about, I cannot wait to see more Factory X cars.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're already hearing that. And we've seen a couple more debut. They're coming out of the woodwork now. Like we talked about, it took a little while for them to get rolling, but now I think we're going to see the excitement really pick up on that deal. I'm pretty stoked about that. But Mountain Motor also, I love the fact that it stayed the same for so long. We're still talking about, these guys probably don't want to hear it, but they're still running in the same ET range they were 10, 15 years ago to the 8th and the quarter, because a lot of the parts and pieces have stayed the same, which you could look at as a negative, but with the way things move in these other classes and rule changes and the way good equipment gets made obsolete quickly. Yeah. I was trying to go with like a major vocabulary word or something, but I couldn't put it together. But yeah, that's what to me is the appeal of that class, is that we talk about there's a ton of those cars that are sitting on jack stands or are in garages somewhere that this may be a perfect deal for them when the NHRA comes to their region to jump in on that series. So, and a huge shout out to JHG also for their just support of all of NHRA drag racing, but door slammer racing especially.
I think that this is another. There's a slew of things that I feel are happening on the back of this. Is like, one, I think this is a big reminder to everybody out there that's putting on races, like how important big crowds are. Like that's the draw of the NHRA, which gets people. I don't. This is a little bit airing out dirty laundry or whatever. And I don't want to piss anybody off. However, a racer 9 times out of 10, or maybe 99 times out of 100, they would crawl across broken glass to race in front of those full grandstands. Like, you can park these people in the weeds, you can park them, you know what I mean? You can treat them terrible, but if you roll out and give them the opportunity to race in front of massive amounts of people in these huge crowds at world-class facilities, you're going to be there's nothing you can do, in my opinion, to deter them. And that's what I really see, is that these guys, these Mountain Motor Pro Stock racers, want the opportunity to race in front of big crowds. To your point, Elon, they want to run it out the back door. They want to go 200, 220 miles an hour. And you're right, Mike, they've done a great job as a community really keeping it in check. I think they're going to have some problems moving into the future, because it's a double-edged sword, right? Leading edge or bleeding edge. And I think as this deal gets more shine, and as you see these racers highlighted more frequently, you see people like Erica Enders and Richard Freeman involved, you're going to see some of that big team stuff, everything that comes with it, probably find its way into Mountain Motor Pro Stock. But that's not a bad thing, because it's going to push the entire category to elevate their game. And if they can just keep it, I think there's some spirit of the rules type of thing, a conversation that can be had that says, hey, we can't turn this into a place where you have to have your own engine shop. We can't turn this into a place where you have to have 10 full-time crew guys. We have to keep this as achievable, attainable as humanly possible, because that's the curse of heads-up drag racing. These things spiral out of control so quickly, so quickly. But no, it's you can't really ask for anything more, as far as a door slammer drag racing fan. I mean, the NHRA's product offering right now, I mean, and we all the things that Elon outlined, and NHRA Pro Mod, which is kind of returning to its former glory. So it's an exciting time, man. I'm glad to have it. I honestly think, for me, seeing pro stock cars with hood scoops, I sure like that. There's nothing like those big motor cars leaving with the wheels up, pulling second gear with the wheels in the air. Just a real driver's class, and I think it's going to be a great fit for the NHRA next year.
For sure.
Really do. All right, next topic. Let's move on. We got to rock and roll through these. Last driver standing. Elon, this is going to be near and dear your heart as probably our in-house Nitro insider, but we got the countdown to the championship starting this weekend. Maple Grove Raceway, the House of Chaos, as it is now known, going to be a huge event for the series. I believe last year, I was looking through some notes from last year's show, and this was like the highest rated TV show they had all of last season. So I think there's going to be a lot. And
it will be again this year. It will be again this year, because they'll have an NFL game
lead in.
And they're going to carry so many of those people. When you look at getting the NFL lead in, plus where our sport is already with TV viewership, it's a slam dunk that we could see, upwards of 2.5 million people at our peak, which would be fantastic. But you're talking about, just it's going to be a knife fight in a phone booth in all four professional categories. I mean,
we've got what do we got? We've got Justin Ashley leading the top fuel points. We've got Ron Capps leading funny car. Dallas Glenn out in front in pro stock. Gage Herrera in pro stock motorcycle, and Chris Thorne in pro mod, who are actually kind of contesting their own countdown to the championship in 23. I guess let's just start at top fuel. Like, if we had to identify, or at the highest levels of our sport, if you had to identify, guys, someone that you think will still be there at the end, out of those names I just listed, do you think there are any shoe-ins? Are any of those guys like perfectly fit to see it through?
I feel like if you're going to say, where do I feel confident of, like, who is going to be standing at the top, I would say either Justin or Gage Herrera. I just think the way their programs are set up. But
I've got to take some notes so I can fill out my drag race bracket bonanza more accurately.
In the same breath you say that, you're like, okay, well, I feel real confident in how Justin's won 6 races, been to 7 finals, won all these Mission Too Fast, Too Tasties, which really means he's had a quick car in qualifying, which equals 2 bonus points potentially. But then you're looking at, well, who's won the last 2 races in Top Fuel? Antron Brown.
That's my pick.
Okay. Well, I mean, that guy's won championships before. The thing about Justin, I think, is you have to lose a championship before you can win a championship, and he's done that. He was poised last year, and then, a variety of things conspired against him, and kind of slipped through his fingers a little bit. But then you look at, okay, well, once you get past that, okay, well, who do you have next? Oh, Brittany Force, Steve Torrance, multi-time Top Fuel champions. Okay, well, let's go a little bit deeper. Oh, Doug Coletta, arguably the greatest driver to never win a championship. Oh, Sean Langdon, pretty good driver, got a car that's running pretty good. Oh, and now let's get down to let's quote unquote the guys that are further down. Clay Millican, race winner. Josh Hart, finalist, multi-time race winner.
Mike Salinas,
Mike
winner.
Salinas,
He's got one,
there,
I think, maybe.
multi-time winner. And then once you get past that, well, who's left? 8-time Top Fuel champion Tony Schumacher, tuned by Mike Neff. I mean, whoever wins the Top Fuel championship, no one should be able to say they're shocked by it. Surprised maybe, but from top to bottom, 12 quality Top Fuel dragsters with world-class drivers. And, it's going to come down to, you come out strong in Reading, conditions are going to be great.
Are they? Haven't looked at the weather.
Yeah, it's looking like highs in the 70s,
Ooh.
lows at 58. No, knock on wood, no rain in the forecast, but it's Maple Grove, so it could be like sunny, and then the mist could roll in. But right now, it looks really good. And then you flip the script to Funny Car. Caps is running great right now, but height, force, J.R. Todd, another final Hagen.
Bob Tasca kind of having
a
resurgence
here. Fire, and then my dark horse in Funny Car is Tim Wilkerson. I mean, that's a car that can get rolling and, come out of the gate strong. And next thing you know, he's won a couple races. These are tracks where he's had some success. And then everyone else is kind of pressing to catch up against him, And I think the most vulnerable driver is Dallas Glenn. I don't know. I think he's, just his car hasn't been running as good as it ran at the beginning of the year. He hasn't been as good off the starting line as he's historically been. And then it's that whole KB Titan versus Elite, Yankees versus Red Sox, Lakers versus Celtics. That's a great dynamic to have in that category, because you could have to beat 3 people that really want to tear your heart out for obvious, for understandable or loyalty reasons or whatever, that, the further you go in the race, if you beat 2 elite cars or you've beaten 2 KB cars, that bullseye gets even harder. There's more ammo being thrown at you in the final round.
Yeah. We got Matt Hartford really running strong lately. Yeah. He has to be a favorite. Would be really cool to see him finally break through. We've talked about it all year, and Erica sitting here at third in the points going into the last handful of races.
You can't let her be that close. She won Reading last year. They are very strong when the track conditions are good. I mean, I think you see that team head into these, we call it record setting season. When it's, those conditions, as you mentioned for Reading, you start talking 70s and 50s and good weather. I think that that's a problem. I think that's a problem for everybody else in the field. But I heard it from, the horse's mouth. I talked to Erica actually last week, and she said she thinks that her personal biggest competition is going to come from within. Yeah. She honestly said, I look at these other, there's everybody's good. And she has kind of made the same argument that we did, that we're at a point right now where there's no layups. Everybody's got a fat. She mentioned Hartford. She mentioned, a lot of the other teams that are really running good right now, doing extremely well. But she also is quick to identify that this is a different deal. She called it, what did she say? Tums taking season, I think is what she said, where it's just constant stomach churning. Every round matters. Everything matters. And it's going to be interesting to see who can live up to that pressure. But again, she pointed out to me that I think that she felt her toughest competition headed into the countdown was TJ Coughlin and Aaron Stanfield. Yeah.
And I think that you have to take a page of the Steve Torrance book. Erica is a very dangerous driver when she's happy. She is an incredibly dangerous driver when she's pissed off. If she can channel that anger and frustration positively, and that's where she's still figuring that out. But when she gets that figured out, could she win 4 of these 6 races? 100%.
Especially if you even give an ounce of thought to the dominant performance that they had in 2022. Yeah. They fall into stride at all, and it's a problem. It's a problem for the rest of the field. I have to agree with you, Elon. I think that Gage Herrera in Pro Stock Motorcycle, I don't know that we've ever seen this type of rookie performance. You would likely know this level of dominance, consistency this early in his career. Clearly, we have a special young man, a special young racer on our hands. But I gotta say, I want to just circle back briefly to Top Fuel and Funny Car. I agree. I think it's anybody's ball game in both those categories. If I had to pick one, I can't help but feel like there's some magic happening around Ron Capps. He reminds me a lot. I think he would have had a lot more success early in his career if John Force didn't exist. You know what I mean? Like, not to say that John Force, it's kind of like the guys who had to play basketball in the NBA against Michael Jordan.
Charles Barkley or Karl Malone. They just came in a bad stretch against Michael Jordan.
Yes. They're multi-time champions if Jordan's not in the league.
Yeah.
And I kind of see something similar. I mean, to your point about Doug Coletta being perhaps the best to ever do it that hasn't won a championship, Ron was that perpetual bridesmaid for a long time, second place every year. And now that he's had that breakthrough, got to lose a championship to win one, done a couple of them in a row, and now he's got some of the, feels like there's some energy around him. He owns his own team. They masterfully, and I'm not trying to put too much onus on a tribute car, right? A throwback weekend. But if you think about just the spectacle and the energy and the momentum that group has right now, I mean, there's no lack of belief amongst Ron Capps and company.
And you look at that weekend, all that pressure, and on Saturday, he, doesn't win the Mission Too Fast, Too Tasty, gets the overall title, but Force gets it. Sunday, out first round of the Pep Boys call out. Then, all that pressure, now he's got the snake car and it's been running, to go on and win the U.S. Nationals, that crucible of that day has to give you the confidence going into the countdown that, okay, if we stub our toe in Reading, it's not the end of the world. We got 5 more races. So they're in a great spot, I think. But he's got a little fake swagger. I think that's, you spend time around guys that have that confidence that just oozes off of them.
Well, do you think it's changed? I feel like it's changed since he finally broke through.
Yes.
There was always the bridesmaid, the monkey on his back, and then now he's kind of got a little strut, a little confidence, more confidence than he already had.
Yeah,
and he knows how to win. You've got to win one to know how to win them.
And now that he's won the U.S. Nationals 2 years in a row, that was the next big knock. Okay, you won championships, you never won the U.S. Nationals. Now there's nothing he hasn't done. He stops racing tomorrow. He goes into Garlett's Hall of Fame, Motorsports Hall of Fame in 4 or 5 years. There's no discussion about that.
Yep.
I can't argue, man. And I think that if I have to pick one that, beyond I guess the obvious, the Gage Herrera thing, I think that's a layup suggestion, a layup pick. But
wait a minute now. Wait a minute.
Ron.
Look, if you go back to Pro Stock Motorcycle, the guy I see sitting there second, which it all tightens up after the countdown starts, which is a shame for somebody like Gage or the Steve Torrances of the world that have their massive points leads, knocked down to a round basically. But Matt Smith sitting there in second, that's just got to make you start to sweat, and you just can never count the guy out just from the savvy, all the championships, the experience.
I mean, he's have to show up with a KTM in Reading. Right. Or something.
But he's always got a trick up his sleeve when he needs it, just like his dad. Like we saw the deal, I forget where it was. Maybe it was in Denver, where he rolled. He knew he was behind the 8 ball performance wise. And just, before anybody's up at the pre-stage, just rolled in and lit both bulbs and then just backed back out. Just so that I think it was Hector Jr. saw it.
Just let you know, hey, just let you know that I'm still here.
Treat him. But it's just little stuff like that.
Crazy is it? And I talked about this in the press room with Gage on Sunday night of what an unenviable position he is in as a rookie, because it was like either you win the U.S. Nationals as a rookie and everyone's like, yeah, we kind of expected it. You've won 37 races this year. Right. You've been kicking everybody's ass in class. Or if you just don't win the U.S. Nationals, which is completely understandable, everyone's like, well, this is just a complete failure. Okay, you just now you're susceptible to this. We can, with Drag Race Bracket Bonanza, we could do when the field's locked, we could see who the fans picked to win the race. 75% of the hundreds of people that filled out Bracket Bonanza brackets picked Gage Herrera to win that race.
Wow.
I mean, it wasn't even close. 75%. The rest were like 40% for Robert Hite, 34% for Justin, maybe 27% for Caps and, Robert and those guys. But 75% of these people were like, oh, this is a guy, this rookie is going to win the U.S. Nationals.
Tough spot.
Tell us more about the drag race Bracket Bonanza before we jump off into something else, since this is NHRA focused.
Right.
How's it? I think you've had a hell of a start to it.
Yeah.
What have kind of been your challenges and some things that you're looking forward to going into the end of the year, and like these stats that you're able to get, like this ownership stats that we get from DraftKings and FanDuel and the NFL, and it starts to give you that picture. I think you sent out a pie chart in one of your emails that kind of had this breakdown. You're getting some info that, you're really kind of breaking the ice, the first to get that kind of info.
This has been a project that I thought about for 3 years. Talked about it, hey, we should have this. We should have this. And I finally just decided to just do it. So the cool thing is, you talk about hurdles. It's basically awareness, doing shows like this, getting people, hey, you can sign up at any time, but getting them kind of conditioned to on Saturday night for the next 6 races. That's when the brackets open. Our window for filling out brackets is pretty tight.
Right.
So getting people conditioned that when the brackets open on Saturday to fill them out until Sunday morning when the first pair of Top Fuel dragster drivers fire up. So the key is sign up, opt into the newsletter. We don't blow people up with emails, but you do get an email on Saturday night that says brackets are open, go in and make your picks. That's probably the biggest thing. But really our conversion rate, which was something I was concerned about, was people signing up and then actually get them to fill out the bracket for the U.S. Nationals was right around 82%.
That's unbelievable.
Fantastic. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And we're getting, 85% of the people are opting in to the newsletter. So that's positive. And we're getting more people. It's starting to pick up a little bit. We've got more people signed up coming this weekend. We're getting track support. Maple Grove Raceway is going to do some stuff for us. We're going to have the QR codes in their suites for people to sign up. Some teams are now starting to get behind it. Josh Hart's done some tweets and posts. I thankfully I've got great relationships with guys like you and drivers and things like that, but I didn't want to come out at the U.S. Nationals guns blazing and then have it not work. I wanted to make sure it worked and the functionality. So it's free. You can go to dragracebracketbonanza.com and sign up. And then on Saturday night, you get to fill out all 4 brackets all the way to completion. We use top speed of race day as the tiebreaker. And like I said, we had winners we do individual category winners. So Top Fuel winner, Pro Stock, Funny Car, Pro Stock Motorcycle, and then an overall winner for whoever gets the most points. But we had winners from 4 different states: Indiana, New Jersey, Iowa, 2 from Texas. Ironically, DeMarcus Rogers, who's the competition director at the Motorplex, won Top Fuel. So I was able to fly home from Indy on Tuesday morning, and I drove straight to the track and gave him his plaque, which we had signed by all the drivers. So that's, I have cool plaques. I get the drivers to sign them after they win. So it's a one-of-a-kind item. We have kick-ass championship belts for the overall winner and overall runner-up. But for me, it's something our sport needs. It's something anybody can do. We're going to make it better in 2024. The 7 races of 2023 are just kind of proof of concept. But next year we'll have pictures of the drivers. We'll have more stats. Like you'll be able to see the head-to-head record for the first round matchups and kind of how drivers did. Like the outlier was only 2% of the people thought Antron was going to win the U.S. Nationals.
Wow.
Well, because he was number 15 qualifier. But if you have that data point, but then he's the defending winner. He's won it 3 times. Then you can kind of make that probably closes that gap. But I love the fact that I'm getting people and feedback that are not drag racing fans, that know people in drag racing, that are now getting involved in our sport. They can tell me who J.R. Todd is. That can, be like, oh, hey, Erica, I don't know much about her, but she goes rounds, and I like picking the women, and these things like that. So you're getting all those elements. So
That's
and
a
that's
huge
key.
part of it. I mean,
that's the upshot of something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we need more of this. Anything that we can do to like richen the user experience or the fan experience in our sport, and those things we're way behind the curve. Like if you look at other sports, like we're way behind. And so I was excited whenever I heard about this project and actually saw it come to fruition. I'm going, this is something that people can really get excited about, look forward to. And it is a way to get people invested. You got a horse in the race. You've got a reason to follow along. All of a sudden, each round has more heft and more significance to you personally because you picked, you know?
Yeah, and you get the progressive points. So you get more points, you know, the further a driver you pick goes rounds, but then you get more points for upsets. So you could be watching and you'll see your potential points versus your actual points. So you could get to a point on Sunday where you're 4 points behind in the overall deal, and the two guys in front of you are locked out. They're at their max points, but you know you've picked Doug Coletta to win the race, and if he wins, you're going to go around them. You don't think you're going to be locked into Fox like you're in, like you've been cranking the torque wrench on that thing and like you're invested. That's what you want is like, and then when Doug Coletta wins and then you win, that's a huge. I mean, that just makes that moment more. I'm literally getting goosebumps talking about it.
That's
what you want.
That's what it takes, man. That's exactly what we need in this space is ways for people to feel involved.
JT, will you drop the URL in the chat that people can check out? What's the web address?
It's just dragracebracketbonanza.com.
And you got all social media platforms. Follow you on there.
Yep, on Twitter it's just Drag Race BB. And then on Instagram and Facebook, it's just Drag Race Bracket Bonanza, which is funny how long. I mean, I had all these elements. I wanted to have drag race in there. I wanted to have bracket, which is something we're also kind of transitioning. Our sport has always been built on ladders. You know, you have the ladder for this, but more traditional sports talk about the bracket. So kind of making that transition.
What a challenge that is right there. Like just getting that terminology change.
I loved the alliteration of Bracket Bonanza. And there's all kinds of Bracket Bonanza. There's, you know, races in Canada called Bracket Bonanza, and there's all, you know, whatever. So when I tried to buy a URL, I was like, okay, well, maybe I could just do, you know, Bracket Bonanza. No chance. And then I was like, okay, what about if I shorten it? Well, what about just DRBB? No, every doctor and dentist has locked up every DR whatever email or website. There's just not any. I actually just was trying to make up stuff. DR whatever. Any combination that starts with DR, gone. So I was able to just get Drag Race Bracket Bonanza and just figure that eventually we'll probably get it shortened to DRBB and nomenclature. But
at the same time, you also think about, I talk to folks about this all the time, is that like most people access people's process for like finding things on the internet is much different. I mean, I mean, basically what you're likely contending with or going to see is people go to Google. Which I joke as Google spell check is really what it is for most folks. And it's not a search engine, it's a spell check. And you type in Drag Race Bracket Bonanza, whatever, in some butchered version of that, and they click the top link and
and that's been interesting because we started testing it with a different test website. And so we're now pushing that down. But it's been exciting to hear people get excited about it, to hear, you know, my kids are playing it. And I think it'll always be a fantasy style game because I want young people to be able to play and invite their friends. And I get asked the question of, do you have an app? Do you not have an app? And I made a purposeful decision to start it on a website because what you don't necessarily know with an app, it's always going to be vertical on your phone. So with a website, you can turn your phone sideways and it'll autocorrect. So it makes it easier to swipe the brackets.
Yeah, I did mine horizontal.
Yeah. So I told my web guys, these two wicked smart guys, ones that came out of University of Alabama, ones out of Colorado School of the Mines in Golden. I mean, they don't know anything about drag racing, but boy, they can design all the technology stuff you need. But I was like, I have the website, but you have to design this to look good on a phone.
Uh-oh, we lost him.
Uh-oh.
I was just getting ready to ask him a good one. Mike, let's dive into this real quick because while we get Elon back here, I'm sure that I bet he's getting a call if I had to guess.
Probably.
We'll remove him here.
Yeah,
but I want to touch
we probably better keep it rolling.
Yeah, we got to keep it real quick though. I do want to talk about this briefly. Let's just reflect on Drag Illustrated 30 Under 30 here in 2023. What a journey this has been. Nearly a decade strong, if that's about right. Hard to believe this project has been going on that long, but I just want to kind of say my sincere thanks to everybody that has supported this project. We're at a record number of submissions here early for the 30 Under 30. And if nothing else, I just think everybody should feel happy and like feel secure in the fact that drag racing has a rich future ahead of it. I mean, this is to see thousands and thousands of names come across our desks collectively with these incredible stories about the difference this young person or that young person is making in many different ways. Their contributions aren't just behind the wheel of a race car or just under the hood of a race car. There are people that are wiring cars, building cars, fabricators of every shape and size. It's really overwhelming. And I couldn't be more excited about it. And I just want the community to know, like, we genuinely appreciate it. People can say whatever they want about it being a popularity contest, blah, blah, blah. We hit, we miss, but we swing the bat a lot. And I'm super proud of what this represents in our industry. I don't think there's anything like it in our space right now. And there hasn't been. And I'm just so proud of it. I mean, what are your thoughts on heading to Indy to do this deal again this fall?
Is we've got to keep making it bigger and better, which we've got a ton of companies involved in it again this year. As far as swag you're going to get with it, not to mention, just the promotional bump, giveaways. We're working on all that stuff. But what I like to see is, we get bad mouthed when someone's, had an awesome season racing or done a lot in the sport and they're 19 or 20 years old. And it's cool to see those people continue to blaze their path in drag racing and continue to get those nominations and continue to try again. Because as we've said, we have to look at where people are in their career at various points. And we have seen people that have been on our radar for a long time that sure are deserving to get in, but for one reason or another, we've different decisions were made, but keep submitting and keep trying again. Don't give up. If you're under 30 years old and you're continuing to build your career in drag racing, get those submissions in. And even if you didn't get in the past, things could be different this year. So it's cool to see that. It's cool to see people continue to shoot for this, because this is something that, again, like you said, is unique in the space. And we continue to try to make it bigger and better. Everyone wants the 40 under 40. And I say that now Wes and I have Wes is about to age out in a couple of weeks, but now that I've aged out of that, we're going to go for maybe 50 under 50 is what we're looking at next.
That may be where we end up, but I've had people like send me these nasty grams about not making it on the list. And I'm quick to tell them, like, dude, I've never made any list. Ain't nobody sending me no plaques or nothing. Like there's tons of us that try really, really hard.
I sent you a plaque, dude.
Well, my own company. I mean, I had to I got
what did the placard say? This is
people.
Classic.
Mike sent me a plaque that said, congratulations on your first ever magazine feature. I've only owned a magazine for 20 years or whatever. It took a minute, but I mean, it's just like, this is part of life. And I think that it's good for me. The excitement comes from the people that keep trying year after year, or the people that understand it. I mean, I don't need any further validation than we had in December of 2022, when 29 of our 30 young people showed up in Indianapolis, Indiana to make that walk, to be there in front of that huge crowd and come up on stage and get their jacket from you and Nate like that. And we would have had all 30 had Evan Bader not been having a child that same week. So to get that kind of support, people flying from all across the country, if not around the world, that tells me everything.
And speaking of around the world, Ida, we're about to have her on here in just a second. Had her on the cover of the magazine. She was a 30 under 30 recipient, and check out the season she had. So the bump is real, not just the cover bump, but the 30 under 30 bump, as JT would like to say. So really cool to see people that we kind of shoot our shot and say this person is making an impact to drag racing, and then to see them go out there and actually do it.
I couldn't agree more, man. Let's pay some bills here real quick and remind everybody that our hot takes and hot topics section is presented by Redline Synthetic Oils. Redline has a reputation with racers and hardcore enthusiasts for creating products that perform and protect better than any on the market, and they've been doing it since 1979. Whether it's your race car, your tow rig, your motorcycle, or your lawnmower, when you think about lubricants, you need to think about Redline. For more information, log on to redlineoil.com. Didn't get to talk about it there during our opening segment, but we will circle back around later in the show. The Redline Synthetic Oils Carolina Nationals coming up this weekend. Darlington Dragway, the PDRA's latest offering. Cannot wait. Some huge storylines coming out of this race and coming into this race, namely Ken Cartuccio Jr. making his return to competition after tearing up his hot rod in a real bad way at US 131 in Martin a few weeks ago. Incredible effort from Jamie Miller, Johnny Miller, the entire team, Tim Davis, the list goes on. But a month, I believe, a little over a month turnaround from barrel rolled to race ready. Incredible performance by this group of people. We'll talk about it a little bit more. I do believe Ken will be joining Nate Van Wagenen on PDRA Live tonight, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. Make sure you tune in. We're going to bounce around here a little bit. We had a whole section ready to go, run of the week presented by Stroud Safety, but I think let's bounce around a little bit, guys. And we got Scott Palmer. We got the People's Champ, I believe, in the green room. Actually, I see his screen has gone green there. So boom, let me see what if we're going to get Scott Palmer back before we throw him on here, and we'll maybe bounce around a little bit. Let me see if we're going to get Scott back. JT, we may have lost him. You want to dive into? You want to? Let's get. Oh, there's Scott. He's back
right now. I'd say he got a call.
Oh, he got a phone call. Scott's a popular guy. They don't call him the People's Champ for nothing, man.
That's right, man.
I do want to go through these runs of the week. We got some really cool performances that took place this weekend, and it's something that is near and dear to the heart, making sure we identify the efforts of all these.
Yeah, let's run through those.
Yeah, let's run through them. So this week, run of the week presented by Stroud Safety. Got a couple of them. I mean, one of them, my favorite part about this type of thing is having the opportunity to reward and validate and give some shine to people that likely busted their ass at the racetrack this weekend. It doesn't have to be a win. It doesn't have to be a world record, but it has to be something that we feel is noteworthy and a singular performance on the racetrack. I want to give a shout out to Nick Agostino. Clicked off a 389 in PDRA Pro Street testing, reportedly on radial prep. That's the inside line, so we definitely know that that's something that has to be considered. But seeing Outlaw 10.5 or 10.5W cars kind of back in the news for me is a real positive. We've seen some real interest in PDRA Pro Street. I think it's something that's going to continue. I'm excited about some things that are going to happen in early 2024 around this class, but man, people like to be able to race their car year round, and I don't mean to upset anybody, but radial racing has become so seasonal that I think that Pro Street, this deal could really take hold. Mike, real quick reaction. Do you agree with me? I mean, could we see a new heyday for 10.5W racing?
Man, I think so. It's something that we've been talking about a lot. The way 10.5 just was so dominant, like when Drag Illustrated first started. I mean, really, we covered Pro Mod, the ADRL heyday, and 10.5 Orska. So to see that come back around, I think that was some awesome racing back in the day, but it just sort of lost its way and kind of got priced out, as you said, and the performance, it just became sort of like radio, where it became such a game of trying to keep up. But we'll see where that goes, and we'll see what happens this weekend at Darlington.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I think PDRA plays so well at Darlington Dragway, right? Like,
that's perfect for the 10.5 stuff.
Perfect spot for some fast door slammer drag racing. Moving on, the armless archer. I've got to get some more information on this, but I don't know if anybody has seen this on social media.
We need that photo. Do we have that loaded up?
I don't know if
there was a photo or a video.
I'm not sure how many people are tuned in to Matt Stutzman, but he's one of the top-ranked archers in the country, and he shoots arrows with his feet. He literally does not have arms, and I've gotten a ton of messages about this. Apparently, over the course of the last couple of weeks, he's been testing at Eddyville Raceway Park in southeast Iowa behind the wheel of a relatively fast door slammer, a 4-second, 140, 50 mile an hour door car, and he's driving this thing with his feet. I mean, watching the video of this guy rolling through the water, matting the gas, backing up from a burnout, using his right foot to throw the shifter into reverse, the whole situation is, I'm struggling to wrap my head around it, to be honest, on a multitude of levels, because part of me is going, all right, this is, who could ever complain about having it rough at the racetrack if this guy's not complaining? It's an incredible thing. There is the other side of it, though, where I'm going, God forbid there's any sort of bad thing happen, because we know that these cars, like, drivers aren't really, I don't think you see the merit of a driver when things go well. I think you see the merit of a driver when things go wrong. And that's going to be a situation that apparently the World Drag Racing Alliance has licensed him. So this has been a big storyline. The WDRA provided
So was this
him
in
a license.
competition? Was he racing against someone?
I don't believe he was
in
racing
this video
against anyone. No.
Okay. Because that's, I mean, like you said, nothing. I'm sure this guy's got it under control, but that's where it could possibly be a problem. But hey, we'll get to that point, because I think when we first started talking about this guy, didn't we mention this a while back? And we didn't even believe that this was a thing. And so now we've seen what this guy can do. So looking forward to seeing more of this guy. How about Oscar Cardozo and
Oscar
the whole deal
Cardozo
down at Big Jake's?
Man, I tell you what an event Big Jake had, the Southern No Time Nationals. It's incredible the scale that these events have reached at Extreme Raceway Park, right down the road from me, outside of Dallas, Texas. An incredible little drag strip, a real jewel of the drag racing scene.
Travel a long distance to go there.
Absolutely, man. I mean, it's like the grudge spot. Like, I remember early in the Drag Illustrated deal, early on in this project, it felt like most of the big money grudge races kind of happened at the House of Hook in Aiken, South Carolina, Carolina Dragway, or they happened maybe at Macon Dragway, Macon National Dragway outside of Macon, Georgia. Those were kind of like the hot spots. And Darlington, definitely known for some big races, but XRP has become the de facto go grudge race spot. And I told you guys in the green room before the show, I'm just completely fascinated with the no time scene. I mean, if you would have seen the drone shots, Mike, from this race, there was traffic backed up as far as the eye could see. The stands are full of people. The starting line's covered in people. There's real deal fast race cars. And again, I got to give a shout out to Oscar Cardozo. This isn't a guy that I know very well, but driver of the Jesse James 275 tire Camaro, really kind of stole the show down there. Obviously, times aren't displayed and everybody's very secretive, but my inside track on it is that car is like a front running, wherever it goes, 275 tire car. And it's just, I don't know, I was thinking about that to myself. Can you imagine having a car that would run like representatively in an established class, but never turning on the boards? I just think there's something badass about it, man. I absolutely love.
You can't do it, because once it's up there, it's over. The whole deal's gone. We've seen that many times. Didn't we get a certificate or something? Or
throw that thing.
Throw that thing up there.
I got it over here. Look at this. Grudge Racer Certificate of Recognition. Oscar Cardozo behind the wheel of the Jesse James Camaro. He is the official national bear of the week. And I love the way this bear term has become a thing. Willie Dog Watson.
Godfather of grudge.
The Godfather of
I like
grudge.
that.
I love it, man. And to me, I think it's very deserving. I asked around. I talked to a lot of racers, a lot of different crew guys over the course of the week, and he was the name that I kept getting. Like, I asked about J.R. Gray. I think J.R. Gray behind the wheel of Jason X, his small block nitrous Mustang, he went 2 for 3, made some really impressive runs. But everybody I asked, like, if you had to pick somebody that had a steal show or show stealing performance at XRP this past weekend, who would it be? And Oscar Cardozo was the name 99 times out of 100. Last thing, as far as run of the week goes, I just thought it was a fun kind of, it's Street Outlaws. Could they ask for any more? Kai Kelly and Lizzie Musey facing off in the semifinal round. Great drag race, side by side. G-Body versus Camaro, Nitrous versus Blower. X's go head to head. I just think that they've really, what an incredible storyline.
Yeah,
I think that
they got it all in that.
They
one
got
run.
it all, man. I mean, I don't know. I just think in like traditional drag racing, if there was some husband wife dynamic or some girlfriend boyfriend dynamic, it would be completely avoided. But I'm proud of that whole crew, because you got to give it up to Kai Kelly, Lizzie Musey, everybody at the Street Outlaws, their families, to like let this whole thing unfold as publicly as it has, do it in front of television cameras, and really be pretty poised throughout it. I mean, I've been blown away because I thought that was something that could deteriorate into real nastiness really quick, and it just hasn't, to the best of my knowledge, at least on social. I've been really impressed, and to see them have like meaningful side-by-side drag racing, that race out on Thunder Mountain, MP,
Yeah,
that
they
was
had
a hell of a
crowd.
drag race. Great.
Well, they had a
drag
hell of a
race.
crowd. Lizzie won the makeup race from where did they get shut
Tulsa,
down?
right?
Tulsa.
No.
That's what was it? No, was it Tulsa? Wherever they were previously. Her and Chuck 55.
Idaho.
She took that win.
Idaho.
Yeah, Idaho. That's right. And then Kai doubled up and won the grade 8 on Friday night, won the invitational on Saturday. So he's had a hell of a season for sure.
Let's this week run of the week presented by Stroud Safety, I think, goes to the armless archer, Matt. We're going to come up with a little award for this because I don't think there's.
We got to
any
get
chance
him
we
on
can
the
get it
show.
to him. We got to get him on
That's
the show
next.
sooner
That's
rather
next.
than later. All right, next order of business. All right, guys, let me real quick remind you that the Wes Buck Show is made possible by way of our friends at Stroud Safety. Stroud Safety is known for their top quality racing safety equipment, from drag chutes and seatbelts to fire suits and blankets, all 100% made in America. Log on to StroudSafety.com and make sure you tell them that we sent you. All right, guys, let's get right down to it. We got a dear friend of Drag Illustrated's here on the line, and I'm excited to check in with him, make sure he's doing well. Scott Palmer, what's going on, buddy? The People's Champ joins us live. How are you, my friend? Can you hear us?
Hey, Scott. Can you hear us?
me, buddy? Oh, shit, we can't hear him.
Oh, might be muted.
You might be muted down there, buddy. Hold on. Scott, you can't hear us. You're muted, big dog. Still got recovering from that black eye.
JT, maybe help, work with Scott if you can. We'll get him back on here in a second when he's got his audio straightened out.
Maybe. He's about got it. I can tell it's happening. No.
That phone call messed him up earlier. Don't call Scott
Yeah.
Palmer right now.
Yeah, don't call Scott. All right, let's move on. We'll get Scott in just a second. I want to switch gears here because we're still on the subject of, do we got him now? No sound. No sound. All right, let's move on to the next one. We'll get Scotty back here in a second. I want to talk to Kevin Kinsley. I've been wanting to talk to Kevin Kinsley for about 6 months now, but he really, really, really got my attention with his performance down at XRP behind the wheel of the War Wagon Nitro Pro Mod. Goes 363, 200 plus. I think it's.
Let's see a pic of that thing. Don't we have a pic of it?
It's almost unbelievable right here. I mean, look at this thing. 6-8 foot header flames hanging out of it. Injector running over the roof. Incredible. And I don't know that anybody really believed personally that, that the Nitro Pro Mod thing could be anything more than a sideshow, right? I mean, we've seen Scott Palmer bring this thing out as an exhibition car. We saw Kevin Kinsley dive right into competition. Let's check in with Kevin real quick. Kevin, welcome to the show, man. It's been a minute, long overdue. Did we lose him too? Jeez Louise. He just got a phone call as well, I bet.
We are Scott's calling Kevin probably.
Scott's calling Kevin.
Maybe we've got Scott back now.
Man,
do we have Scott ready to go?
Let's try it. Scott, can you hear us now? Nope. Can't hear him.
Can't hear him.
Oh, his audio's messed up. It's something.
There he is.
There you are.
There you go. Yeah, we got you now.
We got you now.
And between me and Kev, Kev has drove our boat for a long time, and we're not really super involved in the boat now, but it's still kind of part of our deal. But he's a wild man. But me and Kev, we're like twin brothers joined at the hip. Neither one of us are good on this technology stuff. So
oh, you're good, man. Hey, real
entertaining.
quick, what I really want to know, man, is how are you doing? I mean, 2 surgeries, really scary deal. Why don't you give us a little bit update on how you're doing, Scott?
Oh, way better. I mean, I'm down. I've got this on, but after watching that video, of that guy driving that car with his feet, and I can barely button my pants whenever I go pee. Crystal's button my pants more than you should any 5-year-old during this 3-week time. But I don't even want to complain. I mean, it's going really good for the way the crash was. I mean, when you look at the crash and you see the injuries, and I figure I came out pretty lucky.
When I saw that video, it was one of those deals that take your breath away. Would you? I don't want to like create like a traumatic experience here, but what can you kind of take us through what exactly happened? Because looking at it from that one rear vantage, it's I saw a fire, looked like the wall, and then the next thing I know, you're headed across the racetrack.
Well, and I told everybody, I said, that whole thing is completely driver error. The whole thing is completely self-inflicted. We actually went to the Truett Osborne bike race, basically a motorcycle race, a benefit. So we're there for Mitch Brown, and we're just there to put on a show. And we're all friends with each other, and we know that the track is awesome. The Arc City track is all concrete. It was awesome. But we're there at a motorcycle race. It's not a car race. So we go out there and we make them super soft early, one flat 60 foot, just roll them out there, get them going, and get them to the finish line. And I told JR, I said, and JR makes me look like I'm calm. I'm telling you, he's a wild man. So I told him, I said, listen, I just opened a couple of clutch flows, one at 1.5 and one at 2 seconds. And when those clutch flows open, I'm going to come by you like you're sitting still. I was just giving him a hard time because we've been buddies for so long. I said, I'm going to blow by you down there. And a couple days later, when I seen him in the hospital, he said, hey, I forgot to tell you, you did blow by me, but you didn't tell me you were going to be on fire when you came by. But it was all Scott. Driver error. The thing, when the clutch flows opened up, it started to spin the tires pretty hard. And in my mind, I remember thinking, I'm going to go 50 more feet, and then I'm just going to shoot. I'm just going to kind of coast by. And listen, in something that short, you need to lift when you think that 50. Don't think 50 more feet because that was too far. Now, since then, we've seen a few things. It looks like I found a picture from the finish line that it looks like a header tube. The turn up of a header tube may have came off when it was
something came off on the starting line too. I don't know if that came off your car, like bounced off the walls and came back across the starting line just past the tree. Yeah, like a black cylinder type thing.
Right, and I think it may have been one of the turn-ups off a header tube, which what happens is lifts the right side of the car up, unloads the right rear tire, and slams you into the wall. But honestly, if I would have lifted the 50 feet when I said I was going to go 50 more feet, I'm thinking this in my head. If I would have lifted then, it probably would have been okay. But I remember hitting the wall. I remember the fire, and I remember going across in front of JR. And I looked over to see where that Chevelle was, and I saw his front end, but it was probably 30 feet back there. So I knew he wasn't going to hit me. And then next thing I know, I look up, and when I look up, the end of the wall came by. And then once I saw dirt, I knew what was coming next. I knew it was going to barrel roll. And the barrel roll is what got me. My arm probably wouldn't be hurt except for I was reaching for the chutes and all the stuff with my right arm. And that's what got me. So all in all, I came out pretty lucky, no burns. And that was an inferno. I mean, that was a legitimate funny car fire. I've never been in one like that. So now I can say I've done that, but it was.
And how about JR? I mean, from that video, sees you coming across there, and then you can tell he's doing all he can to get his car to a stop and get all his stuff off and get out of there. I think you saw some crew guys. I don't know their names right offhand.
Joey Gallegos.
Gallegos.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Joey
ran across there to get you out of there. But that deal, I mean, talk to us a little bit about, you've got all the safety gear, right? That car is up to snuff on all safety fronts. You've got everything you need in that situation. It's just obviously the variable of this thing being a nitro burner.
Yeah, and this honestly had nothing to do with it being on nitro, other than if it wasn't on nitro, it probably couldn't churn the tires that hard at 2 seconds out. I mean, it probably couldn't get you in that much trouble at 2 seconds out unless something broke. But, the real problem is behind the wheel, which is, and I tell everyone, I take this crash seriously for sure. But, if that factor's not involved, they don't book you in and pay you money or buy your T-shirts to watch you play dominoes. They just don't. They book you in and buy your T-shirt because you're doing something that's probably sketchy,
It's hard not to. I mean, I got to tell you, Scott, talking to Crystal in the moment and immediately following, I was so glad to hear that you were okay. But it's been like inspiring and awe-inspiring to watch you handle this whole situation the way that you have. There's been no doom and gloom. There's been no, I don't know how I'm ever going to come. It's just been incredible to see you. This is like a real Evel Knievel moment.
Oh yeah,
you've
Evel's
had
right
here.
back here over my shoulder too.
Yeah, there he is. I mean, and it's like, that's a, and I just think that it's incredible how not bashful about this whole situation that you've been. I don't know the last time that I've seen a professional race car driver jump right on social media to own it that way. You know
Which we
what I
knew
mean?
you would. We knew you would. There was no doubt about that.
Well,
once we all knew you were okay.
Yeah, I think you have to. And I saw a few posts, you know, don't post this, don't post that. So little Joey Gallegos, his right-hand man, Adib Busto, he does a lot of videos, and he had cameras all over our cars because he's just a sharp kid. So I as soon as I the next day in the hospital, I was like, I got on the phone and I said, listen, I need you to put something together, include Joey, because luckily Joey ran in front of us. He was there just testing his car with us, ran in front of us, and smart enough. And I signed him up for the 30 under 30, because think about this. How many kids do you know that build their own front engine dragster, build this, build that, do their own maintenance, comes to my shop, digs through parts, does whatever he needs to do, comes and helps us. But here's the thing. My car was still, you can still hear it crashing. It's still on fire. He's running to the back of their tow vehicle, gets a fire extinguisher, hauls ass, runs to my car, and drags me out. He's got me out of the car before they get there. And this is a 23-year-old kid. So that's that. But Adib put together this video, and I said, listen, before everybody gets all wrapped up in the downside of this, let's get a video out there. Just put SPR right on the front of it, so everybody knows that it's out there. Because, okay, I take it serious 100%. But people want to see. People want to see this is drag racing. You just had that car out there that everybody said was going to crash. And guess what? I always said it'll definitely go 300 miles an hour if it doesn't scratch itself first. Well, it scratched itself. So that's part of the game. I know the risk and I take it serious, but I knew people wanted to see. And I live, so let's get it out there.
Speaking of that, and people saying this is never going to work, it's a death trap, all those things. How about Kebin goes out and lays down probably the most, the best runs for a combination like that just a week or two after your crash. So you kind of go from people, the naysayers, this is never going to work. Right. It's a death trap. You're an idiot. Why are you even trying this? And I don't know how much, I know you and Kevin are tight, but how much you guys swap info and how much maybe you were involved in that run, in that combination, for it to actually go out there and prove this is something and we're onto something here and we can make this work.
No, that's great. And I have nothing to do with that. That's all Shane Ferris, and that's their setup from the War Wagon fuel altered. And that thing goes down a dirt road. It's that car makes it to where you could actually run a race. Now, 2 years ago, whenever we were testing, we've ran 346 at 241, and then we ran 236 mile an hour testing somewhere. But at the time, my whole process of thinking is 300 miles an hour. All I can think about back then, this was 2 years ago, and all I could think about was 240 miles an hour won't go 300 in the quarter. So to me, that was a terrible run. Well, now looking back, I should have went back in time, but as my progression went along and I got better parts on the top fuel dragsters, I put them all on the Studebaker. So I went backwards. I started smoking the tires, but I still don't think you could run much faster than Shane Ferris and Kevin, the Corvette, does and race it, because it's so hard to maintain.
That's
let's bring Kevin in. JT, bring Kevin Kinsley in here. I've been waiting for a year to talk to this guy. Kevin, what's going on, man? We'll just have us a group conversation here. Because why not? Because I honestly believed that we would never. I mean, as much as I loved what Scott was doing, right, from an exhibition standpoint, I didn't know if we'd ever see this thing actually be a competitive hot rod. Kevin, were you surprised when that thing clicked off a bottom 360? If we're gonna get you, I can't tell. I think so. Maybe. I see him. I
see him on there, but I don't hear him. I can tell you,
I think his connection's still pretty bad.
I can tell you, I was not surprised, because I know the Ferrises and Keb and all them, and they did it right, and they make a lot of runs with that combination. And my guess was, I think when they were taking predictions, I guessed within one number of what it would run, and that's just because I know how consistent those guys are with that combination and how good it runs. And I think you could, and you still get the naysayers because Bubba run in the 50s and Reeser run in the 50s, and you're always going to get that comparison. But as far as having a few of those cars put together, as long as it doesn't get out of control, and my next one will actually start off a little milder, like Keb and Shane and them, and then we'll work our way up. Because now that my 300-mile-an-hour car scratched itself, I can actually go back and regroup and say, okay, that was a little bit crazy. I'll calm this down a little bit.
Kevin, we got you.
Cat. Come on, Cat.
Baby.
He's going to be driving the boat. I think it's this weekend at Marble Falls or San Angelo, Texas. So
maybe we got him. I can't tell.
We got you, Cab?
No, we don't.
You got some good still images if anybody wants to blackmail him.
We got some good still images. I don't know if it's bad.
But that was going to be my next question, Scott, was after seeing what these guys are doing, have you changed your mindset as far as, all right, I need to stop shooting for the moon, stop shooting for the 300? And I mean, is that what you wanted to see out of this type of, type of pro mod, or, what you're trying to do with it? Or do you want to still see it be the Evel Knievel type thing that you've been going for?
Oh yeah, I'm all for the Evel Knievel thing for sure. There's nothing changed one bit in my mind other than this right here. Like when we first built the Studebaker, that was the goal. Then we got the opportunity with Tommy, and we went and ran the whole season for a few years, and everything got sidetracked. So I've been trying to just really cram it down that Studebaker's throat that we're going to go 300. And that it just shows you what happens when you do that. That doesn't work. You have to go spend time with the car to do that.
What about what rear suspension is on your car? Had shot. It wasn't solid rear, was it?
No, mine was a 12-inch Chrisman, just like a funny car, just like Shane Ferris. The Corvette is solid, just like that.
Okay.
We did exchange some of that because Joe Mondin put the rear, or set up the rear end in the Corvette also. So there's been a little bit of sharing, but honestly, Shane, actually, I even asked him the other day, is that basically the same combination? Shane actually helped us with some other stuff, and he's told me how they run that car to get it up and down the road, up and down the track, because they have a great combination. And I think if you're going to go and put on a show, you need cars that go up and down the track. In my case, I'm like a circus act at the carnival. I'm just out there doing stupid shit.
I think we got Kevin.
Kevin, do we got you, buddy?
Yeah. There he is.
Yeah. Sorry, I had a little difficulty there. My internet's not being happy today. So.
Hey, I told him you have probably the two worst guys on the computer, probably on earth, on the show.
Pretty much. Yeah.
No, man, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Actually.
No. Well, real quick, I mean, can you take us through, Kevin, like how did the genesis, like we've talked a lot with Scotty about how this whole Nitro Pro Mod came to be, but the Ferris family, the War Wagon, very well established as a fuel altered, right? You guys had a lot of success. It's a hot rod. What was the genesis behind putting that combination in a door car? Shit. I thought, there he is.
It was funny. It was really weird how it went down. So this time last year, we were match racing Frankie Taylor in Evadale, and David Kirkland, our crew chief at the time, and Howard and Beth and I were riding back in the truck, and we just, we're having a hard time getting some match races to run the fuel altered, and nobody wants to pay nothing. So, well, man, we need to do something different. And he goes, "What about building a street outlaw car?" And I said, "Oh, that'd be kind of cool." And then the guys kind of looked into the rules, and they won't let us run a nitro motor in it. So next thing I know, they called Galen and out at XRP and asked them if they let us run out there in their Outlaw Pro Mod deal. And man, next thing I know, they bought a car the next day from Clayton Pool, and then it just snowballed, and that's the motor. Believe it or not, that is the exact same motor out of the Road Rage car that we went to the finals in Indy with. The only thing different, it's got a different camshaft, a different fuel pump, and a different intake manifold. But I mean, it's the same cylinder heads to the barrel valve, same clutch, everything.
So what is the transmission driveline combination?
It's pretty simple, really. It's the deal that Joe Munden had come up with. It's got a like a pillow block bearing and 2 drive shafts in it, and they couple together just like a normal funny car or dragster. And then it has a shaft that comes out one side of the bearing that goes to the rear end, the other side goes to the reverser. It's really a simple deal, and it works very well. And Joe has done it in a couple A fuel cars he had done, Pro Mod A fuel cars. And a guy named Charlie Wooden had one from Houston.
I remember that.
It ran really well.
Yeah, like blue hairy glass body.
But yeah, yes. That's the one, yeah. So he owned a big glass company, I think, in Houston. But
is this a repeatable deal, Kevin? Do you think that this is something like where do you feel this combination ends? I mean, you guys are racing this car in competition, which I think is a lot of people were surprised by. I know our group here at Drag Illustrated, the first thing, as soon as I heard about what you guys were running out there, everybody's going like, is this going to become a thing now that it's being successfully done? I mean, do you think that this is something that you could see other people trying to replicate, or is this too special of sauce for others to try to do?
Well, I hope so. I tell you what, man, I've driven a lot of cool stuff, and this thing is a blast. Now it's a handful. I'm not even close to being a Pro Mod driver yet, because I mean it's hard to drive, but I really think with like the combination that Shane and Howard are using right now, I think it's a doable deal. I mean, that thing, the only thing that's hard on us is, you got to put a clutch in it every round. And we're trying some stuff to maybe make 2 passes next time we go out with it. We're going to try some thicker floaters and some other stuff, but we're running it just like we do our altered, except it's got a smaller fuel pump on it where we could maybe manage it a little bit better. But man, so far it drives good. It's just when we started putting some more power in it that last run at XRP, I'm not sure the front wheels ever really touched the ground. Maybe the right one a little bit. And it kept driving to the left, which all the Pro Mod cars there that night were doing that, but the other cars were able to bring it back. But this thing, it started sashaying a little bit because I kept turning it to the right, and it'd come back and then to the left. And then right in the finish line, I was turning it right, and it just blew right over. And the tires were getting taller by then. I think we're going to have to play with stagger on tires. But, that's only the 5th hit on that car since we put it together. So we've got a lot to learn. And, I got a lot of great people to talk to, like Brandon Pez and Scott Palmer. And, there's a lot of people out there that have good knowledge about Pro Mod style cars that I think we can make this thing a doable deal where other people could go run it. And I mean, even Galen and Frankie Taylor and all these people come running up, they're as excited as we were, because as you all know, we all need another shot in the arm in this sport to get it to turn around. And I'm like you guys, I think this thing's growing. It's going to get better, but I think this is going to be the class of the future. I
mean, I'm telling you, man, when you see it, and it's been hard. I
don't know that there's enough crazy dudes like these 2 guys out there that's going to get behind the wheel. Like, we could have a contest. I don't know which one of you think you're crazier than the other, but
Kevin, he drives.
You guys are pretty close, and we'd have to find those guys that haul them around in a wheelbarrow, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Scott, run me through the differences between, you've driven a car with rear suspension, right? A traditional Pro Mod, but you've also driven one with a solid rear suspension. What kind of nuances do you notice going from one to the other?
Well, going from the solid one, you just don't have it. It's like everything is a little bit more, seems like temperamental. When it's going left, there's, all you can do is put some stagger in the air pressure in the rear tires, and there's not much adjustment you can do. If you got, like, say the Corvette goes out there and it's drifting to the left, somebody will say, hey, you need to put preload, or you need to do this. Well, you don't have that option with one of these Nitro Pro Mods that are solid. Now, I think honestly that it's possible to run them with 4-link. The Chevelle has 4-link. We've never really it's went 970, 60 foot before, but we've never tried to go faster. I think if you didn't step on the 60 foot so hard, I think you could run them with 4-link and have a little more adjustment, but I'm scared of the drive shaft situation if you go any faster. So that's why the Studebaker basically has the same exact setup that the Corvette of Shane and Kev's got. That it was set up the same way. So it works the same, but it's definitely a different feel. It's like driving a funny car a little bit compared to a door car, except you're on the opposite side and nothing really feels the same as a funny car. So I don't really know that you can compare it to anything, to be real honest.
Well, and that's why I asked, because we've seen historically people try to make the move from a solid rear suspension car, like people that have had very storied careers in funny car try to move to Pro Mod. And it is, they go from a car that they can manhandle to something that does not respond to that type of, with rear suspension. And it typically doesn't go very well. I mean, we've seen a lot of those test sessions end up with a car on its roof. So I was curious about those nuances from one to the other. What about for you, Kevin? Like going from driving, you've driven everything under the sun, but tell us about the door slammer experience. I mean, you mentioned being relatively new to Pro Mods. You've obviously made a slew of runs most recently in Outlaw Fuel Altereds. So, take us through kind of the experience of driving that. I saw the first burnout, and that looked pretty sketchy in and of itself. But just take us through kind of that whole situation.
And that's another reason, we got Scott on our side to help us with this thing. I went over to talk to Scott after that first burnout, and they told us to, get some more drive shaft speed on the burnout. So we took some washers out of the burnout stop, and it's been doing fine ever since, but that's the stuff you just don't know till you go run it, but, I drove this car for Clayton Poole when it was an alcohol car. And I didn't drive it a whole lot of times, but, it does have a different feel to it. And sitting to the left, even in the top fuel boats, the dragsters, funny cars, I've always been in the middle. And I find myself driving down the highway and I'm in the middle in my truck. So, I was really kind of concerned about that. But so far I've been okay. I've been using the stripe to focus on.
Oh no, we lost him.
Oh no,
we lost him right there. I guarantee you got a phone call.
Hey, I saw you on the Wes Buck show.
Hey, are you still on the show? Yeah,
I was.
No. Well, I just think this whole situation is very interesting because, again, I think there's a standalone. There's an ongoing. People in racing, I think there's a lot of reservations around running nitro, right? Like a lot of people just aren't comfortable with it, don't want it in their pits, and I think that it feels like some of those walls are coming down where people are proving that it's something that can be done. It doesn't have to just be some experimental thing that's never going to make a full pull. I was blown away by it. And to Kevin's point and your point, Scotty, like it's hard to turn away from a door car. I mean, this feels like if this was done correctly, it could be seismic. I mean, it could be a really big deal if you take cars that look like cars and hang header flames out of them. I mean, you've got a rat fink Hot Wheel type of situation that could get traction in a hurry. I mean, it really could. I mean, this puts nitro, I'm not trying to throw stones, but this puts nitro coupe racing to shame.
Yeah. Can you imagine when we show up at one of Larry Jeffers' NHRA national events with 8 top fuel Pro Mods spitting, spraying fire over the headers? NHRA is that. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there because me and Larry Jeffers are good buddies, but I'm just putting a little pressure on. But I mean, can you imagine an 8-car field of these cars? I mean, Andy Fangman's got one. I don't know if y'all have seen that 69 Camaro. Yeah. He's run some low 4s and header flames, and he's just in the very beginning stages of that. They took their nostalgia funny car stuff and put over in this car, and it's a 20-something gallon pump. I mean, I think to do it and make it a class, and I think you would need to put like a 50-gallon pump limit or something. There's going to have, because you're going to get idiots like me who have a 108-gallon pump on their Pro Mod, and you're doing things like I do, which might have got the spark started, but it's not the way to be competitive. But that's not really why I did that. Now your whole reasons can change a little bit. I mean, I can still do this. But now I have this back door to go out the side where I can say, oh, wait a minute, that was a great idea then, and I still think it's a possibility. But now I want to go make about 50 runs before I attempt that.
Well, I think that you're exactly right. And you kind of introduce a whole, like a really interesting concept, because in my opinion, where there's room in drag racing right now, it will not be in just another Pro Mod series. It will not be in just a regional version of something that's successful elsewhere, right? It's going to take something new. And to your point, I'm not like trying to make this happen or anything, but that's what it's going to take. Like if the NHRA or if whomever, XRP, there could be if there was a home for these cars, I think it could be something very, very big in our space in a relatively short amount of time, especially when you're seeing how successful Kinsley and co are this early on, the buzz that you've been able to generate. I mean, I'm telling you, man, here in Fort Worth, Texas, it's not unusual for me to see a Studezilla t-shirt at a restaurant or a bar. I mean, that car has what you've done, Scott, is like, it's people are into it. They love that man against machine thing, that this is an untamable beast. And like you said, if you had a few of them under one tent, I think you've got a hell of a show in a hurry.
Well, right now, if I had 8 of these cars, or even 4, like Marty Chance has one with a converter that, you know, we try to help them as much as we can, and they don't get to run it much, but you know, we're going to start focusing on that, because if you ever get that converter to work, where we don't, the problem with these Pro Mods are servicing the clutch in between runs. It's just unbelievable. And Shane called me from XRP, and we're talking about, man, this clutch is a killer. Now, I'm a clutch guy. I love clutches, but when it comes down to working on one in this car, this thing is an oven, and you're sitting inside this Pro Mod trying to service a top fuel clutch. If that converter ever does work, and they've had some success. We made a couple good runs with it at Outlaw Armageddon a couple years ago. It actually had big header flames and put on a good show, and we need to get that back out. And Jamin Hogue drives it, and we're all buddies down here. You know all these guys, and we need to get that back out there, because if you could make 2 or 3 runs in a night, the Scott Palmer Nitro Sideshow would be off the hook. You could book it all over the country. I have people call me right now. I could take Nitro Pro Mods to every track in this country, probably, just picking up the phone. And honestly, mine hasn't done anything impressive. I mean, probably the most spectacular thing it's done is crash, you know, but it has actually sparked some sort of excitement. I mean, and that's, I didn't start off wanting to do that. I was just doing it for my own little reason, but it turned into this other like movement that's going on. And as much as you try to stop it, it's pretty damn cool. So it's hard to stop, you know? It
is. I mean, real quick and kind of a closing notes here, Scott, I'd love JT, see if we can get Kevin back, because I'd like to get both of your guys. Kevin said something right at the beginning of this conversation that I wanted to kind of go back to. What's up, Kevin?
Hey,
what's the business like for match racers out there in the world? You talked about right off the bat there that you couldn't get anybody to book in the altereds. I mean, what's the landscape look out there? Scott's talking about a lot of people reaching out to him about the Pro Mods. I'm just curious, like, is there a business out there for somebody that's looking to match race and go do some barnstorming like the glory days of drag racing?
I really do. I think this is the next new thing. There was a lot of excitement the other night at XRP, and I mean, just even on Facebook, there's been a lot of talk about it. And you know, Scott opened the door to this deal, and there's a handful of them out there right now, and there's some people talking about building some. I really think it'll be a thing in the future. You know, I was telling the guys the other day, I feel like we're kind of like the Jungle Gym and the guys back in the day when they were running the automatic transmissions in funny cars and stuff, you know. But you know, there's a lot of stuff we still got to figure out and learn. And there's a lot of people said this Corvette deal wouldn't work, you know, but it's, you know, it's showing some potential. And I think we just need to go, like everything, you got to go run it to learn it, you know. And I'm excited. It's kind of rejuvenated our team, and I'm looking forward to the next year. We're going to run this thing quite a bit more. There's a few ideas we want to try to maybe keep this thing down on the ground. and where you could probably steer it, you know. But again, it's the learning curve. We're going to do some aero work on the front of the car, and we're going to probably play with the header angles and do some other stuff, try to get some help with this thing. And but besides that, the car drives great. It's a blast.
How much nitro do you got to run to have that big a header flames? Like, what's the percentage that you guys run?
Shane had 90% in it the other night.
That's what we.
I was like, all right, hang on, here we go, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, nothing like starting at 90. Scott, is that where you guys are as well?
That's what we run exactly like the top fuel car. And I actually talked to Shane not last week or week before last, and we're talking about camshaft because Johnny West had told me, he said, you got to get. I said, you know, when I slow the timing down to make mine roll out there a ways and leave soft, the header flames are weird until the timing comes back in. He said, you got to get that big old camshaft. You got a top fuel dragster cam in it, right? I said, yeah, I got everything like the dragster. You can't do that. You need to change this camshaft. So I asked Shane, hey, what camshaft you guys running? He told me, he goes, hey, I might have one, you know, but I'm running the latest, greatest, everything you can get on a conventional top fuel dragster. And to get those header flames, probably the fire comes from it not being so efficient because you're burning it as it comes out. So Shane and them, he was telling me about their camshaft, and that's what Johnny West had told me that I needed. So that's actually, I've ordered a couple of them. So we'll have one in the Chevelle because the Chevelle has the same thing. And when we slow the timing down, it has no header flames until the timing comes back in. So I want header flames whenever you're trying to run slow also, if you're on a marginal track and you need to slow the thing down. So because these things are for the show, I personally will never run mine and probably in competition unless at some point we're running pro mods at a NHRA race or something like that. Let's just say that ever happens and we were running them for that. Because it's if I start going to a racetrack and running for a $5,000 purse, I'm never going to get more than that for a match race. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they know, why would they pay you more than that if they can book you? If they can book in a whole race and pay that for the whole purse. So the two cars in my shop are just for match race purposes only until something comes along like we're talking about. Which, you know, with Marty's car, your car, Shane's car, Andy Fangman's car, you're looking at. There's quite a few of them right now, and I think that John Dunn has mentioned putting something together too. You know, John that sells a bunch of parts. He's, you know, him and Kopchek from Rage Pumps. I think they're buddies, and they got close on it one time. I think they're considering it too. I think it's.
Well, and I think sometimes all you need is somebody to break through. Like you've got a couple guys showing that it can be done. And done successfully, and all of a sudden, like those walls come down, and people are going, "Okay, this is not completely insane." And I'm with you, man. I've been saying for years, like God bless. I think that the NHRA is doing really well. I think that a lot of big events are doing well. But the tracks like XRP and these Saturday night drag strips, them having booking in shows, we've got to bring that back. Like that has to be, we've got to continue to build stars out of people, build heroes, because I want tracks to be able to do that, to be able to fill the place up by booking in 2 cars and not having to have 800 cars on the property to get a crowd. Right. I mean, it's that's something that we need to, I mean, can you imagine if you're a track owner and you could have like a weekend bracket race and like kind of all your normal categories, but then throw a match race on top of it and actually be able to sell some tickets and have a meaningful business. I mean, that we need more of this, not less. And I think to both of your guys' point, and Kevin, like I can't say enough about what you guys have done and accomplished so quickly with this combination. The main thing is not going out there. And I mean, what I've seen in my experience with exhibition vehicles is not this attention to detail, not this commitment to the craft. I mean, a lot of the match racing thing was a little bit marred, in my opinion, by all these racers not doing, you know what I mean? Cars that are leaking, cars that are wrecking, cars that aren't making it down the track, you know, all of those horror stories about your booked in show guys. We got a new era of racers coming along here that could reignite that, in my opinion. But
I agree too. I think 100%. I think these little racetracks need something to draw a crowd. You know, XRP has a pretty good crowd on a weekly basis. It's a great track, but there's other tracks there that if you had 4 of these cars, like the show like we do at the Stampede of Speed, if I took that show, I could take that show to 8 times a year minimum. I have phone calls. If you had 4 to 6 or 8 of these cars and some fuel altereds and some whatever, that'd be a great show for a track. And you have to add up what it costs them for a spectator. And I do this in my head whenever I give a price. I say, okay, we have to generate 2,000 people in the seats for you to break even. And if we can't do that, we do not put on a good show. And we've done it up here at Ozark Raceway and had a good crowd, and we've done some shows like that, but never something that would draw the attention of these cars. These cars are something special, and I'm an NHRA guy. We all run NHRA, and that's what we've lived for, to race, and that was our goal our whole life. And they don't really love this idea, but it's a good idea. No matter what anybody thinks, it's a good idea for sure.
It's hard to argue, Kevin.
And honestly, I'm the weakest link in the chain of these Nitro Pro Mods because I'm so psycho about going just over the edge, and I did. I went over the edge. I definitely I hurt the class when we call it a class. I hurt it by crashing this car because everybody's going to point the finger. Oh, that thing's crazy. You shouldn't have done that. When in all reality, it was a driver error. I would have done that if I would have been in any car racing J.R. Sandlin, who's one of my best buddies and who is crazier than me. But it was just our little deal that we were going to be side by side. And I opened up those clutch flows, and it wasn't the right place to do it. Wasn't the right place on the track. Wasn't the right race to do it at. It was just a perfect storm of a disaster, and it got me,
Well, I tell you what, Scott, I appreciate your candor. I'm glad that you're A-OK. I'm looking forward to seeing you down here in a couple of weeks. Hard to believe that it's already almost October. Really don't know what to say about that. Give us a little primer on what you got in store for us Friday night on October 6th out at the Texas Motorplex, Scott Palmer's Nitro Sideshow. What all do you got in store, buddy?
Friday night we have some cool Nitro cars. Of course, can't do the Nitro Sideshow in the Dallas Fort Worth area without having Blue Max. So Blue Max is going to be there, Ronnie Young, and I love that car. That's probably my favorite car ever. And Joey Gallegos, John Brook, a couple front engine cars. I've got fuel alters. I've got Jody Austin and Rick Llewellyn. I'll have Jimmy Jones, of course, because you can't race in Texas without Jimmy Jones there. So that's just a given. We got a pretty good show. We're still working on our small tire shootout, which will be we're working on that. I've talked to Boosted GT and Kamikaze and some guys just helping me, not so much with as far as them racing. I think Kamikaze, we're trying to get him to run, and maybe I'll put a bounty on a couple of those guys' head. But I want to do something for the local, the gangster down home underground small tire guys, and give them a little exposure and a chance to run for some big money. So we're going to do that, and then we'll have Jacob McNeil he's driving one of the top field dragsters. He's been driving this year and done real good. And I'm going to tell you right now that I'm not going to be released to drive the PBR car. So we're actually putting Krista Baldwin in the car for Dallas. So we're going to do that and do something cool for the cowgirls that follow along with the PBR. We had a meeting with PBR today, and they're all for it. They think it's a great idea and a great combination. So we'll be going back and forth from the PBR event at Fort Worth during the Stampede of Speed, the October 6th, 7th, and 8th. We'll be going back and forth to the PBR event from the Motorplex. So we're going to do some cool stuff. Me and Christy Meyer and DeMarcus and everybody at the Motorplex are working together with the PBR during this time to promote both sports.
Which is huge. I mean, what an opportunity to have PBR, that's a massive endeavor, right? I mean, that's a huge operation, and they are growing rapidly. So to have the opportunity to work with those guys, man.
It's such an honor. And they have almost 1 million more followers on social media than NASCAR. That's how big PBR is. So for our sport to get to be involved and kind of work with them, I think that's I think it's bigger than some people think. But the fact that they like the fact that I do stuff like the Studebaker situation, in a meeting today, they said, hey, you fit right in. You've got your arm bandaged up, and they're going to send out some bull riders that are on the injured reserve list to the
that's
same
hilarious.
speed, because, you know, it keeps them involved with PBR, and they come out to see the PBR car and hang out with our team. And you know, they don't look at this as a setback. They look at it as, this is our sport. You're injured. Let's charge forward. But they like all the crazy stuff that comes out of my head sometimes when me and Rick DeCousin are having a beer.
There's nothing wrong with that, buddy. We couldn't be happier for you. Glad to see you smiling and healthy as you can be. Buddy, I'll see you in a couple weeks. Let me know if you need anything, ladies and gentlemen. The People's Champ, Scott Palmer.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, buddy. Let's close up shop here with Kevin Kinsley real quick. I want to hear what's happening next, and then we'll dive into our next segment. Kevin, where are you guys heading next? I mean, are we going to see that car in action again in 2023?
Not sure. They're
Okay.
working on a few things. Like I said, we're going to do some aero work to the front end, and a couple other things where we can get this thing where we can drive it. I'm not big on hitting cones. That kind of really tick me off. So anyway, we're going to try to fix that problem. And then I don't know. I'd like to go run it again before the season ends, but I still got a couple drag boat races left. And my buddy Dexter Tuttle's putting a marathon drag boat together that we're going to run at Lake Havasu in October. And so, yeah, I still got some stuff going on. Still hoping maybe I can get a ride and you never know. Like last year, I got the phone call Wednesday before the race. So you never know, you know?
You never know, man. Well, hey, I look forward to seeing you out at the Stampede of Speed either way, whether you're racing or hanging out with me. Let's connect soon. Be safe at the boat races, and thanks for your time, Kevin. Let's give it up. Kevin Kinsley, what's up, buddy?
Of
course, man. Thank you.
Sorry about the technical difficulty today.
No, it's all good, man. It's all good. All right, guys, I want to remind everybody that each and every episode of the Wes Buck Show is brought to you by way of FlowRacing.com. If you're a drag racer or a drag racing fan, you got to get on board with Flow Racing, the world leader in sports live streaming. Flow Racing provides unlimited access to drag racing's biggest events like Donald Long's Lights Out No Mercy Sweet 16, every stop on the PDRA and NMCA Tour, Funny Car Chaos World Cup Final, Streetcar Super Nationals, the Drag Illustrated World Series of Pro Mod, the fast approaching Skag Power Equipment Pro Superstar Shootout, and much, much more. Personally, Flow Racing is a fixture in my life. I'm able to follow along with multiple racing events from the comfort of my own home or while I'm on the road. The platform provided by Flow Racing is changing drag racing for the better, and there is no limit to the good that they can do here. So join the movement today by logging on to flowracing.com. Guys, holy moly, I don't know where we're at in the show rundown. We've still got to talk Racer of the Week. We've dived into a few of our special guests. I think we've got one more. I think it's like
let's get our last one in here for the day.
Oh my goodness, last one for the day. Last but not least, fresh off a dominating performance here.
Let's actually do the Racer of the Week, because it'll kind of lead into this. Let's run through that.
All right, this week's Racer
presented by
Racers Club. This was a tough one because we didn't have an NHRA national event, so we had to kind of go, and we want to throw this out there. We're going to get a little more active on social, basically on stories, reels, YouTube shorts, but we'd love to hear from you. If you have a suggestion for Run of the Week, Racer of the Week, let us know. Send me an email, shoot us a message on any of our social media channels, on YouTube, however you want to do it. Wes at dragillustrated.com, Mike and JT at dragillustrated.com. We're easy to get.
JT at Drag Illustrated. That's new.
Well, not one.
We share an email address.
Yeah. They share an inbox.
Ever since JT cheated on me that one time, now we have a shared email
account, Mike. That
you
one
guys
night
should set one up, Mike and JT.
I don't trust him anymore. I got to monitor all of his emails.
I have no trust in you, man.
Oh, you guys are terrible. All right, Racer of the Week presented by Racers Club. I think that this one, this was some tough ones. Kai Kelly, what a performance out on Thunder Mountain, Bandimere Speedway. I got a couple things about Kai. Hey, this is the burnout doingest SOB in all the drag racing, maybe. If you go watch those videos, the thing MPK is doing that better than any other series, any other event, burnouts. Obviously,
I would say he's not alone, man. All of them kill it, and that's a strategy deal too. They're trying to lay down rubber.
They're trying to get that rubber down. Yeah.
Unlike the rest of drag racing, where we've now decided we don't want to do burnouts and we don't want any rubber and we don't want any traction, and we're trying to minimize everything. They're going the opposite direction. Like, I mean, Lizzie, Lizzie does like an 8th mile burnout every run, it seems like.
I love it. I mean, I watched a bunch of coverage on YouTube of the Vandermeer race. And to your point, I mean, every car is doing these big Hail Mary burnouts that used to be reserved for like John Force at Indy. They do it every run. And I love it when I see people lean into things in our sport. Like they're not shying away from that. They're doing the big burnouts. Obviously, there's strategy there, but man, it stood out to me. But Kai Kelly doubling up, wins the Grade A, wins the Invitational relatively impressive fashion. Clearly has a hot rod, clearly a championship contender. I think we may see things change for the first time in 5 years of organized No Prep Kings competition.
Been right there, every year.
He has been.
Yeah.
Finished second, right behind Ryan. And you knew the moment Ryan Martin had any sort of struggles or any sort of setbacks, Kai was going to be there. And to do it with a new combination, new car, I just find the whole situation very impressive. And I think we got to point to Evan Salemi. This has been a big talk on social media. This is a young man about 21, 20, early 20s. 23, I think, actually, is how old he is. But basically crew chiefing a car in one of the highest levels. It's really impressive. I've been blown away by it, and it's great to see young people succeeding. Following him, Keith Haney takes the win at the Midwest Pro Mod Series, Midwest Drag Racing Series event
Mr.
at US
Barometer.
131.
You know his name.
Mr. Barometer.
You know his
brought
name,
it in.
Mr. Barometer. I think, hey man, several runs in the low 360s. I think he's a contender. I mean, I think that's a hot rod right now. And it was just, he's had 2 wins in 2023, and it's just great to see. Keith has contributed a lot to drag racing here, especially in the Midwest, and all these tracks. I mean, there's a lot of great racers in that community, and I'm glad to see him having some success. CJ Buckner, this is one that this is where I get excited about what we're doing here on this show and just in general, because I love an environment where we're talking about Keith Haney, Kai Kelly, and now CJ Buckner, driver of the Raggedy Ann No Prep Mustang. This car at the Arm Drop Revival this past weekend wins 2 classes, just a dominating performance out there. And to see these cars race on old runways with no rubber down, no track prep whatsoever, and seeing the how creative they have to get to make these things go down the racetrack, really impressive. But our racer of the week, moments away from joining us, fresh off an FIA European Finals win, claimed the championship in Top Fuel, has been undefeated in 2023. Let's give it up for Ida Zetterstrom. What's up, Ida? 30 under 30 alumni. It's 8 o'clock, I think, at night. 9 o'clock in Helsinki.
I think it's like midnight.
It's
How
midnight.
late is it now?
Yeah.
It's midnight, and you got her just sitting there.
There's 8 hours difference.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but that's fine. I've done quite a lot of these like live streams coming in at 3:30 at night or something. So then I take a little nap here at my couch in my garage here, and then I wake up, do the live show, go and lay it down for a bit more.
Well, congratulations, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us, man. What a season that you've had. I mean, I think back to late 2022, having you over here at the PRI show in Indianapolis. You're part of the 30 under 30. You actually win the Lincoln Electric program to go to
figure out how to ship it to her.
I talked to Lon about that at Indy, and he was like, of all the people to win it,
Yeah, because we don't have the same electricity either, so it's just a little bit.
Oh man,
figure it out.
The whole situation is incredible, but the season that you've had, I mean, you announced the deal with Edelbrock, right? This is a huge news, and the rollout, all that. Then you have the situation with the Dodge Challenger, right? Then you get a car presented to you by Dodge, not like some buddies, but like Dodge, a major operation, right? One of the biggest companies in the world. And then you go on to have an undefeated season in 2023 behind the wheel of your Top Fuel dragster, win the championship. I mean, can you just kind of has this whole thing been surreal for you?
It's been very big for us. So, I mean, our season over here is, of course, shorter than a season over in NHRA. And some people see that as it would be easier. Like, oh, you guys only have 5 or 6 races, should be easier to win a championship. But if you look at it the way we look at it, coming into the countdown now in NHRA, where you have like 6-7 races, everybody knows that there is no room for error. You don't have any time to screw up. If you go out early in one event, that's usually it. I mean, take it last year. We had 6 events coming in mid-season. I was leading the series. We went out first run in the race after that. I lost my lead and I couldn't catch up. So that's how important all runs are when our season are shorter. So even coming into the last couple of races, we had a strong lead, but I could never, relax because I could feel that we had that target on our back the whole time. And I know people say we've been undefeated. I actually lost 1 run this year because we won 3 events in the FIA series, 4 events in total. We run 6 races, 5 of them were FIA events, but 2 actually ended up raining out before they were done. So that's why there were no other none other one than us, but there were actually 2 races that didn't get run basically. So 1 race we ran the first run, and when I stood in the water box for the semifinals, we had spun the motor over and the rain started, and after that the race was over. I know some of the races over in US you run them to the finish at the next event, but we don't do that over here. We take our points with us from qualifying and from the events driven or the runs driven, and we continue to the next one. The same thing happened again at TR a few events later, where we then actually went out in the semifinals, and that was the only run we lost. But that final never got run either because it started to rain again. So therefore undefeated, if you want to see it like that. But I did.
Well, you know what? I think we just stick with undefeated. You don't owe that explanation to anybody. No, I'm just joking. But no, nonetheless, what an incredible coming out party. So just take us through, I guess, a couple of things real quick. Can you kind of set the stage for us as far as what the FIA, there's a lot of us here. I've actually been having a lot of conversation with Freddie Terza at VP Racing Fuels about this, just being kind of blown away by how big and how active the drag racing community is in Europe. And I'd love to just have you kind of take us through that. I mean, I know, I understand what you're saying, that it doesn't seem like there's as many races, but when I see the pictures and the videos from these events, I see fans everywhere. I see tons of race cars. I mean, what's it like racing in Europe right now and being a part of that FIA series? I mean, is this a good time for the sport over there?
Yeah, of course, I must say that the sport has been struggling a little bit after COVID, which is, of course, we kind of expected that, especially,
Right.
Traveling through different countries. I know over in US, when everybody could start racing again, you're still in the same country. But for us, every country had different rules and regulations, and it took a while before teams actually were able to travel like normal. And because of that, it's been hard for teams to kind of just pick up where they were before COVID. So in some classes, car counts have been down, including ours. We haven't been as many teams as we have been in the past, but we have been really good teams that have come out. Really, everybody has been a championship contender that have come to the races. And if you look at the fans, I mean, we don't have as many races in the same countries. We have 2 in Sweden. We actually had 3 in Sweden this year because we had a shootout race that wasn't an FIA event, but it was massive crowds and a really big show anyway. And then we have 2 at Santa Pod in UK, and then we also have 1 in Hockenheim that is really big, and we also do show runs in Norway. The one in Hockenheim, it's very special. I know people that have come over from US to watch the event at Hockenheim. They say that the only thing they can describe it similar to is basically Brainerd, because it's wild and crazy. But we also
this is the Nitro Olympics, right?
Nitro Olympics, yeah. So we had last year when we ran it, we had 85,000 tickets sold when the event started, and grandstands are packed all the time. I think they had 55,000 people just for the night show. I haven't seen the numbers for this year, but it felt like it was just enough people. So it was.
I watched the live stream, Ida, and there were moments while watching it, and I'm thousands of miles away, and it's like Sunday morning when I'm watching it, but the way the production level, the spotlights and the fireworks, and then the crowd's doing the wave.
Exactly.
The wave, and everybody's got their flashlights on, and I thought, I've never seen anything even remotely close to that in the States. And if you're not familiar with what we're talking about, go to YouTube and type in Nitro Olympics with an X, It's really stunning what goes on this is the straightaway in Hockenheim, Germany at the Nuremberg ring. So it's asphalt, right? I mean, it's not
like
even
the
a
Nuremberg ring. It's the Hockenheim ring that they do the
Hockenheim ring,
Formula One event at.
Yes.
You know, it's the arena style grandstands where people actually are sitting like up on the, when you go round, you see people following above you basically, and it is very spectacular to see it, and they really live for the night show. So the night show we do actually isn't a part of qualifying. That's just an extra event, but people come in just for that. Some of them come in just for that because it's so spectacular. And when we run, I know we also do, you know, I did 2 night runs at Santa Pod last weekend, but that's different because they actually have lights at the track, so you can actually see what you're doing. They don't have that in Hockenheim. It's actually you running into a dark nothing with fireworks on the side, and, you know, just some flashlights basically strapped on by the side of the track in the shutdown area. It is very crazy, but it's also very, very spectacular. And from like a sponsor's view of that, it's a very cool event to be part of. So I had 40 of our sponsor KW, their biggest customers, came there to spend the day with us, and they also got to watch the night show and, you know, eat dinner with us and everything. We had 5 last call Dodges on display in our pit, right by our Top Fuel dragster. It was not like a separate pit, you know, area. Everything was at the same. And you know what it's like with the open pits. People love to walk around the pit, talk to the drivers, see everything. And we have that on all of our races in Europe. But nothing is like Nitro Olympics. I mean, I see what it's like walking around, you know, in Indy when it's a big race there. And I see how people come up to talk to drivers. But I want to say it's at least the same when you come to Hockenheim. It's so crazy. Drivers or people lining up, you know, in rows just to see the drivers start up the car, to get an autograph. We always have like extra special edition merch for this event. Always sell all of it because people just love to support all the race teams that are there, and it's very, very special. I really like to see events like that because it's special from all the others. But then of course we also have the events at Tierp Arena, which is a fantastic facility. We have Santa Pod Raceway, which is also a great track, and now they have put up lights in the shutdown area. So when we ran, we actually got 2 night sessions, none which was planned. One was it was so hot. It was in Celsius, it was about 35 degrees that day. I'm not sure what that was in Fahrenheit, but it's very hot. So they actually pushed our last run on Friday a little later just for it to cool down a little bit. And that was really cool because I actually had a really good night run. We ran 386, qualified number 1 on that. And it was fantastic to be able to see so much driving at night, because I have done some night runs, but I've never actually seen that clearly, you know, where everything is, if you say it like that. But this was really cool. And then we got to do it again at Sunday, because out of Norway, we got like torrential rain, like everything it was storming, it was raining midday, and we thought that we wouldn't be able to run the finals. But I would say 4-5 hours later, they had the track dry.
Racers aren't going to we ain't giving up. No, we're going to get this bad boy in. Like, that's always the attitude. I love it. Do you think, I got to tell you that, like, we've taken inspiration from these events, especially at the Nitro Olympics, like just seeing the attention to detail and the effort put into the production, like not to, play down the significance of the racing, but it's clearly just part of the puzzle. Like, there's so many other things going on that the racing is just, it contributes to the whole, but it's not the whole. And I think a lot of times here stateside, it's polar opposite, where the onus is almost entirely on the racing product, and everything else is secondary and an afterthought. And that's what we are excited about really for the future. With World Series of Pro Mod, with the Pro Superstar Shootout, we want to create modern events, not races, modern motorsports events that drag racing is the centerpiece of. But to the 55,000 tickets sold to the night event, because from what my understanding, you have to leave, like it's a separate ticket. Like you buy a ticket to the race, and you have to leave and come back in again with a separate ticket to go to the night show. And to get 50,000+ people to do that in a place, you know, a part of the country where drag racing doesn't have near the foothold that it has here. I mean, to me, there's something happening over in your neck of the woods, Ida, that needs to find its way here. And it's weird because, and again, I don't mean to, you know, talk out of turn, but I've always heard about the European drag racing scene being like the racing itself is like years behind where the racing is here in the States. But it seems like the production and the attention, the effort that's put into entertainment is actually years ahead of us. And I see this at Santapod, monster trucks, dirt bikes, plane flyovers, you know, all these other things, concerts. They've embraced the festival in a way that drag racing hasn't here in the United States.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, there's different ways to look at this, because as a driver, as a racer, I want to have, you know, the best track conditions, the best weather, and I just want to run record runs, fantastic racing, win the events. That's, you know, something that really fuels me. But also looking at it from my sponsor's point of view, these events where people come to watch us race, and not just because of the great racing, but to watch us as the performers, basically, the people that run, you know, the great passes at night. I had so many people coming up to me this weekend, and they said, your night run, the 386, that was the best thing I've seen my whole life. And this is people that have been, you know, 40 years going to the racetrack and seeing great racing. They were there. They saw us set, you know, 2 European records in the same run, both speed and ET, back in May. For me, that's the biggest I've done. But for them, that was nothing compared to the night run that we did. You know, just see the bunny ears, like the flames up at night going that quick. So yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying. The racing is very, very important. But this part is also for the fans, for the sponsors, people investing. They kind of need this show too. And just like you guys touched on earlier, that it's very important with the racers being, you know, promoting them as how to say, the performers, the face forward for the teams, which we basically are. I mean, none of us would do this without our teams. We are all equally needed to get the success we do, but it is us drivers that are usually, you know, the face out. And when you promote that the drivers are going to do these fantastic night runs or doing the spectacular night shows, whatever it might be, I think it just adds to the sport and also sponsorship value. And we need to look at all of that.
So what do you think? I couldn't agree more. I'm curious, like, as you move forward, I mean, you've had a couple of great years, stacked a couple of them, one after the other. What's next for you? I mean, I've seen you over here stateside several times. It seems like, saw you at Indy. I mean, what's on the vision board in your office, Ida?
Well, I mean, there hasn't been any secrets that I wanna race in US one day. I would like to see myself in NHRA racing. I don't have any news where I could say when that might be happening, but I can say it's definitely something I'm working towards. And how that would look, if that would be, you know, a few events while running the European series, or how it might turn out, I can't tell. But my dream and my goal is definitely to run, you know, full seasons over in Europe and have a team that I can work with there full time, because I want to do this full time. I've already taken a lot of steps to be able to do this basically full time. I mean, I worked as an electrician when I started with this, and you can't really do that and traveling and racing and take care of your sponsors the way you do. So I started my own marketing company, started working in marketing, started to learn more about the social media marketing, how to work with sponsors, basically, because this is a business, and this is something I've invested a lot of time and effort into, to kind of be able to get the most value for my sponsors and partners that invest in me and the racing. And that's what we have been able to do for, like, for example, what you said with Edelbrock. When we announced Edelbrock, it wasn't just Edelbrock, it was Edelbrock together with a European company, KW, which we could basically merge together in a deal that everybody got a lot of value out of, not just marketing, but the business to business side. And that's something that I would like to work more on, and also bring over to the US side if I get a chance to get over there. Because over here, I feel like I work with this around the clock, but we still only have 6 races a year. And I would like to make those 6 races into a full season, which, you know, NHRA is like 22 or something like that. Because I really want to race more.
Well, I mean, and it's listen, you're clearly on your way. You're doing so many things right. Where are we going to see you next? What's left on the calendar for you and the team here in 2023?
Well, for racing wise, this was our last event. So what we do have now, when you win the FIA series, you get invited to the official FIA awards ceremony, which is together, you know, with Formula One, Rally, all the big classes. That this year is in Azerbaijan, which also collides with PRI. So I have chosen to go to PRI instead. So you will see.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Picking us over going and hanging out with all those Formula One yuppies. No, that's fantastic. I love it. I'm looking forward to it. PRI, real quick, before we cut you loose, we've got record nominations for the Drag Illustrated 30 Under 30 this year. Okay. We're really proud of the buzz around it. I'm just curious, could you reflect just for a few minutes here about what the 30 Under 30 nomination and ultimately being named to the class of 2022 meant for you?
For me, it was a really big deal. I mean, it's something I've had my eye on for a long time, just because I've seen so many big, important names being, you know, in the class of the 30-30, and then also just going through in the sport, doing great stuff. So for me, that nomination is something that is always felt really big. And I wasn't sure that was something I would be able to do, especially, you know, being in Europe racing. So when I got the message that I had been nominated and was invited to come, I kind of felt a little emotional. I remember sitting in a restaurant in Stockholm with a sponsor, actually, and I mentioned it to them, and they were really, really proud of me and said that was something that they found really big too. So no, for me, it personally meant a lot, and I've also seen a lot of the companies that I work with reflect over how big that is. So I feel like there's a lot of both companies, racers, people around the sport that really understands that this is a big deal, being nominated for this. And just like you said, I mean, some people might have been nominated when they were 22 and didn't make the list, even though they did great stuff. But that doesn't mean you should stop trying. I say, just hold on, because it's definitely a prestige list to be on top of. And yeah, I'm very happy I was chosen for it.
Well, we're certainly proud to have you be a part of it. You're a great ambassador for the sport of drag racing. You're a great ambassador for FIA and European drag racing, but the Drag Illustrated 30 Under 30 as well. I think you're the picture of what we're looking for when we start sifting through those nominations, is someone who's not only having success on the track, but having success off the track, who has big dreams and who understands that, like, these moments are fleeting. You got to be chasing them all the time. And I think that you've got an incredible story, Ida, and I'm so glad that we've had the chance to share just a little bit of it. And I hope we get to see a whole lot more. Why don't you get yourself to bed? And thank you so much for joining us here after midnight in Finland.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We appreciate you. We'll see you in a couple of months. Be careful. Sure. Congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, your FIA European Top Fuel Dragster World Champion, Ida Zetterstrom. Woo! We need like some bells and whistles at the end there. All right, guys. Well, hey, we are rolling over the 2-hour mark. So I want to tell everybody, thank you guys so much for being a part of this deal, supporting us week in and week out. Mike, JT, let's wrap this bad boy up. I won't make us go through the brand new Ask Wes segment presented.
Those are some good ones. I think those will last till next week. We'll get those in next week.
Last. We need to we had a little bit of disjointed guest segment there. We're gonna have to we'll make sure. What the hell happened?
Technical difficulties. You can't do anything about some of that.
Yeah, I'm gonna blame it on JT, lack of preparation.
Oh, you were
better.
You were trying to hit buttons and stuff on
I
here.
didn't hit any buttons.
Oh yes, you were.
I hit just one button.
Just wrap it up. I interview
there
with
this picture that we talked about earlier of Mike. You know, I did fine.
Here we go.
That's
it.
Boy.
Yeah,
that's it. That's later years, man. Those are later years when then we actually got a Camaro to match the thing.
Right? Yeah.
I would have never envisioned that happening. But yeah,
that's actually a real clean Geo Metro.
Oh yeah,
dude, that thing's only got like 60,000 miles on it. It's a '94 Metro.
Still around?
Oh yeah. It's just sitting in my dad's trailer right now. If anybody's
We
interested.
need to haul that thing down to Bradenton and use that as the pit vehicle at World Series of Pro Mod.
Yeah.
Just
Dude,
drive it.
people
That'll
used
be
to
our
pull
golf
up.
cart.
It's like the pace
Kids,
car,
especially,
right?
kids, man, they would walk up, and you always kind of had it parked like in front of the race car so that we could, hook up to it and tow out. And kids would come up to it thinking that was the race car because it had like the checkered flag. It's got the backup. It's got numbers on it. And people are like, dude, they're like, little kids, like 6-year-old, I love this car. This is my favorite race car here.
It's a 94 G. You know what I've always liked, speaking of Geos? Trackers.
Yeah.
A Geo tracker. Are you familiar? JT
Oh,
knows
yeah.
what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, Geo,
JT probably owned one.
Yeah,
Geo,
Geo
embodies
every
early
farmer around
90s.
here has one. Because they go anywhere. They're like a little tank,
Yep.
We
But
need more Geo
we
trackers.
had a Ford Festiva, and my sister drove it to college. And I mean, you get up to 70, you could hear the metal just every tin can, But she drove it clear through college, and then when she brought it home, I guess we didn't want to get rid of it. I guess so.
You
we
guys
just
should call
we just
Garlits.
put it in a hog barn, like little
Still there?
Quonset. Yeah. We just pull it out and use it every now and then.
You should get that thing, the Metro, down to Garlitz's museum. I think
Garlits actually wanted my dad's the original 55, but I don't think
it's in a museum in
could never get it worked
right?
out. Yeah, and I don't think my dad wanted to go that far away to Florida, so now it's about 30 minutes up the road at a museum in Mooresville.
That's
Yeah,
cool,
well,
though.
hey man, when you've got a race car in a museum, it's it's only fitting for the father of the godson of Pro Mod.
Yeah, the father of the godson
Just tell
of the
Don
world's
you'll
number
give him
one
the-
Geo driver.
Tell him you'll give him the Geo.
All right,
Okay,
guys.
yeah,
Well, hey,
that would do it.
I appreciate everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, click like, click share, click subscribe. Help us spread the gospel of drag racing. Huge shout out to all of our sponsors: Aeromotive Fuel Systems, TheFoat.com, Racers Club, Stroud Safety, Redline Synthetic Oils, FlowRacing.com. It's the family is growing, my friends. I look forward to seeing everybody. JT or Mike's headed to Darlington Dragway. It sounds like Nate Van Wagenen already on his way to Darlington Dragway for the PDRA Carolina Nationals. Remember, PDRA Live tonight with Nate, Scotty, I believe Tyler Crossno, Ken Cartuccio. Should be a hell of a good show. I guess I'm kind of bracing for next stop being the Texas Stampede of Speed. Right, first week of the first weekend in October. Thing gets kicked off Friday, October 6th. Runs the entire next week. Country music, bull buck out, testing, top sportsman, top dragster shootout, celebrity race, the Scott Palmer Nitro night, Nitro sideshow, and then the NHRA Fall Nationals. So, anyways, hope to see you guys at the drag strip soon. Till next time. All right.
There you go.
See you.